Alrighty, welcome back everybody to our latest live update on Hurricane Helene. This is the first time that we can officially say that Helene is a hurricane in the Caribbean Sea and it's about to enter into the Gulf of Mexico. This is expected to become a major hurricane over the next 24 hours as it approaches Florida. Major impacts are expected across Florida, including storm surge, tornadoes, flooding, rainfall, hurricane force winds, and even tropical storm force winds across nearly the entire state of Florida. So in today's live stream, we're going to break down exactly what's going to be happening, the latest update from the National Hurricane Center, the latest track, why I think this could actually be a Category 4 hurricane upon landfall in Florida, and what it looks like right now as well. Before we get too far into the live stream, make sure to like the stream and subscribe if you're new to the channel. We are going to continue to have multiple updates today on what's happening with Helene, and we're also going to have another live update probably tonight. We'll at least have live coverage tomorrow, but probably another live update sometime this evening as well, in case you missed part of today's update. All right, let's begin with what's happening with Helene right now, the latest as well from the National Hurricane Center. As of right now, this is a Category 1 hurricane. It was upgraded at the 11 a.m. advisory, so that was about an hour ago. This currently has maximum sustained winds of 80 miles per hour, so that threshold continues to increase. For reference, it was 65 miles per hour at 8 a.m., so it's a pretty big jump overall in terms of how intense right now that this hurricane is. It is obviously intensifying pretty quickly. Pressure has dropped down to 979 millibars, and this is currently moving to the north right now as it continues to move through the Yucatan Channel, and eventually it's going to move into the Gulf of Mexico. By later this afternoon, this is expected to become a Category 2 hurricane. As mentioned before, it is going to rapidly intensify as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico, and now the National Hurricane Center thinks that this will become a major hurricane sometime either overnight tonight or by tomorrow morning as it makes its approach to Florida. The current landfall is at 125 mile per hour winds with wind gusts near 160 miles per hour back over in the Big Bend of Florida. That is a high-end Category 3 hurricane. I would not be surprised, as mentioned before, that we could get this up too close to a Category 4 hurricane upon landfall in the state of Florida. You'll notice, compared to yesterday and obviously looking at it today, this has a lot more convective activity and also is spinning a lot more now. So this thing is developing a pretty strong core now in the center, and once the core is fully mantled and essentially set in place here, there's really nothing stopping this from rapidly intensifying. So we are starting to see that happen right now, and by this afternoon, I do think that this thing is going to take off with intensity as it continues to move to the north. It already looks like a crazy-looking hurricane. Once again, this is a huge storm. Look how far, the east right now, all these outer bands are stretching. It is a massive sized hurricane. Now again, the worst of the impacts are going to be closer to the core, but we are still going to see impacts even in the outside, like the outer bands of this particular hurricane, especially even back over in southwest Florida as we go later into this afternoon and as well as into the evening hours. And I do want to hop over to the infrared imagery real quick. This is something that you've probably seen more on our streams because obviously when we're doing live streams, it's usually at nighttime. We're actually in the daytime hours, so I can actually show you the satellite. This is the infrared imagery though. Notice again, really, really cold cloud tops near Cancun right now. This is again a very intense looking storm, or hurricane I should say. Let me go back a few frames because this is a little bit behind. There you go. So this is a little bit better of a look at that. So look at the evolution. Just huge thunderstorms also around the core of this. It is obviously intensifying, and I do think we're going to see a lot more intensification this afternoon and evening as this continues to move north towards the state of Florida. Here's another view of this on the infrared imagery. Again, notice how the size of the storm right now, really healthy outflows with this as well, basically again indicating some of the intensification that we are going to be seeing here over the next several hours as this continues to move into the Gulf of Mexico. Notice the eye, it's just to the northeast of Cancun. Cancun has been dealing with some pretty big impacts today, but I don't think that this is going to make landfall in Cancun at this point, which means that there will basically be nothing stopping this from rapidly intensifying as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico. Again, another view on the infrared imagery. Here's a much closer view on the infrared imagery of this hurricane as of right now. Again, the center of this is really just next to Cancun right now. I mean, it's not far from it, but again, even if it made landfall, it would be extremely brief, and we are not expecting any really major weakening to happen, even with the landfall at this point. It would have to go much further inland to the Yucatan Peninsula for this to really weaken at this point. Here's what it looks like In terms of the wind field as of right now, tropical storm force winds being felt in a relatively large area, anywhere from Cancun and the Yucatan Peninsula all the way back over into Cuba. This is going to be a very large hurricane. So again, we are going to be talking about tropical storm force winds pretty much taking up the entire state of Florida. They've actually gone ahead and issued tropical storm warnings in effect for basically the entire state of Florida at the minimum, at least tropical storm warnings. There are hurricane warnings in the Big Bend, but notice the only counties that are safe in Florida, at least for now, from tropical storm force winds or any sort of tropical storm impacts are all the way back over here in the very far western part of the Florida Panhandle. So, I mean, if you're over there, you're kind of in the clear, I guess, when it comes to at least the worst of the impacts. But, you know, unfortunately, we are still talking about a huge area here when it comes to tropical storm force winds at the bare minimum. I do want to point out as well that, yes, Miami is now under tropical storm warnings. You guys were originally not under tropical storm warnings back over there in Southeast Florida. Now you are. As of this morning, they have gone ahead and issued tropical storm warnings in Southeast Florida. Now, again, one of the main reasons why we are going to be seeing this rapidly intensify is purely due to the heat potential that we have essentially in the southern Gulf of Mexico. Very deep, warm waters are available in the Gulf right now, and that's going to help really fuel this hurricane to be able to really intensify it over the next 24 hours. And we are expecting this to, again, become a major hurricane sometime tonight or either that or tomorrow morning. So this is going to quickly intensify as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, this is the latest National Hurricane Center forecast in terms of what they are expecting. We kind of went over this at the beginning of the stream. Going to reiterate a few things here, though, real quick. Again, this is currently a hurricane. It's a Category 1 maximum sustained winds of 80 miles per hour. The pressure is just under 980 millibars. It is expected to become a Category 2 hurricane later this afternoon or into the evening. And then by Thursday morning, this will be up to a major hurricane. If it's not already by tonight, it will be by tomorrow morning, and it's going to become a Category 3 hurricane. The question becomes, how much is this going to intensify as it approaches the Florida Big Bend? Well, personally, I think that this will probably get pretty close to a Category 4 hurricane as it approaches the Big Bend of Florida. With that said, I could see this still being a high-end Category 3 upon landfall as it moves into the Big Bend of Florida. Notice, by the way, hurricane warnings now go all the way up into southwestern Georgia. It is very similar to Idalia, but it was also, Idalia was a much smaller hurricane in nature. Just for comparison, Idalia was approximately 175 miles wide. I'm just going to go and show you the wind field, essentially. But it's about 175 miles wide or so. So that's basically like this distance here when it comes to, you know, in terms of wind and whatnot. But the thing you want to keep in mind is that this particular hurricane that we're going to be talking about is going to be upwards of 400 miles wide when it comes to the, you know, wind field and whatnot. So that's a lot longer and a lot larger. See how much larger that is? That's a huge range that we're talking about in terms of the size of this hurricane. The biggest story about this, in my opinion, is going to be the size. We are in the 90th percentile when it comes to hurricanes. That basically means we're in like the top 10% of biggest hurricanes of all time, essentially, that is going to be making landfall here in the United States. So the size of this is really the biggest thing that we're talking about here. That means, again, we're going to be seeing pretty much tropical storm force winds across the entire state of Florida. So obviously it's a pretty big deal in nature. Also, there are tropical storm watches in effect for North Carolina, South Carolina, and much of Georgia. And then again, tropical storm warnings in effect anywhere from South Carolina all the way back through Florida and even parts of southeastern Alabama. One last thing I want to point out before we go into the forecast and models and all that sort of stuff. This will be a tropical storm all the way through northwestern Georgia. So do expect the potential for power outages, especially if you are anywhere in any of these tropical storm watches or warnings. You're not guaranteed to see power outages, but there will at least be some isolated to scatter power outages up there. Eventually, the Fujiwara effect is going to take over. That means this low pressure system is going to combine with another low pressure system, and this will all just become one low pressure system over the Mississippi Valley as we go into Saturday. But it is expected to be a tropical storm, or tropical depression, excuse me, all the way up into parts of Tennessee and Kentucky, mostly just producing rainfall. We do have some new, we will at least soon have new model data coming out, so just keep that in mind. This is the model data from earlier this morning. The new model runs are going to come in at some point during this live stream from the hurricane models, so we'll kind of show you the compare and contrast what other hurricane models are showing. in terms of intensity out of Hurricane Helene. But for the time being, we're going to use the HAFS-B model run. This is a model that's built specifically for hurricanes. So again, these models are usually very accurate in nature. We're going to show you two different ones because there's basically two scenarios that could happen with this that I could see happening at least. So this is what it looks like this afternoon. Notice the hurricane continues to intensify, not really rapidly though until tonight. Once this gets a little bit further away from Cancun, I do expect it to rapidly intensify. That rapid intensification, I think, will happen overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. So notice how the HAFS-B model has this dropping from 970 millibars, tonight all the way down to almost 946 millibars by tomorrow morning. Now, this would be a pretty fast rapid intensification. I would not rule it out, but this one is obviously going very fast, and I'm not sure we're going to see rapid intensification this quickly, but if this were to happen and we get down to a 946 millibar hurricane, which in this case would be a Category 3 hurricane or so, it would eventually continue to intensify, and this model has it intensifying all the way up to the coast of Florida, nearly at Category 5 intensity. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but this particular model does indicate that this could become something like a high-end Cat 4 or low-end Cat 5. It's not impossible, all right, but it's still something that we are not forecasting as of right now because it's just too uncertain, I would say, as of now. Another thing I want to point out is this model has it making landfall right just to the east of Apalachicola, which is where a lot of computer models currently have this making landfall in the state of Florida, staying pretty far to the west of Tampa, but Tampa is still going to see at least high-end tropical storm force winds at sometime Thursday or very early Friday morning. So if you're back over in those areas, be prepared for that potential. And in addition to that, on the west side of the hurricane, that's where, there will still be impacts, but not nearly as significant. The east side of this hurricane is where the worst of the impacts are going to be. This is the HWRF model. This model, in my opinion, a little bit more realistic for right now, but again, subject to change. And this is a model that does not get updated anymore. It's not like a model that, basically the people that make these computer models, this model isn't usually updated anymore. Only the ones that are updated are like the HAFS and whatnot. So this one's a little bit dated, but with that said, it's still usually, I think, a pretty good model in nature. This is what it looks like tonight. Again, has some gradual intensification as we go into tonight, has that rapid intensification happening overnight tonight. But notice how the rapid intensification by Thursday morning is not nearly as intense. The HAFS model was showing 942 millibars. This is showing 956. Pretty big difference. Obviously, that's going to be a big deal when it comes to intensity upon landfall. But this model has it going all the way up towards the Big Bend as well, has a very large wind field, but not nearly as intense of a hurricane. It gets it down to 944 millibars as it approaches the Big Bend of Florida Thursday evening before making landfall just around sunset or so as a high-end Cat 3 or low-end Category 4 hurricane. This, in my opinion, is a more realistic forecast for right now, but I do want to mention something like this still cannot be ruled out at this point. It is still a possibility. So make sure, again, if you're anywhere along the coast of Florida, even if you're inland, you want to be prepared again for worst-case scenario out of this upcoming hurricane. Because again, it's basically at this point gonna be a matter of how much it rapidly intensifies overnight tonight. Here's what the computer models are showing on the most recent run. Most of the models still bringing this towards the Big Bend of Florida near Apalachicola for a landfall. I am still not ruling out a landfall closer to Cedar Key. The odds of that are going down a little bit, but honestly, I still could see this making landfall in the Cedar Key area. If it makes landfall more in the Cedar Key area rather than over here, I could see the winds obviously being higher back over in parts of central and also northern Florida. I've kind of been thinking this entire time a Cedar Key landfall, but this trough that's kind of going further down to the south and east, that's going to basically impact the steering of this, continues to move southeast, and it continues to get closer where this hurricane is. So, in that case, this would really just get wrapped more around the low pressure system. But yeah, that's what we're kind of thinking as of right now when it comes to that. All right, let's go into the intensity of this in terms of impacts. We're going to go through all the different impacts. There are a lot of impacts that this particular hurricane is going to be bringing. I'm going to go over to this screen so you guys can see this in a full screen sense of things. Just makes it easier for you guys to at least see visually, because it otherwise looks kind of ugly on the other screen. So we're going to go ahead and go into the wind gust potential first, and then we'll go more into like the flooding, the tornado threat, and etc. There's a ton of threats with this, so we're going to go through all of them. Storm surge obviously being one of the biggest ones. Here's what the wind gusts look like tomorrow morning. We're going to start to see tropical storm force winds on the west coast of Florida. Even inland, we're going to start to see some tropical storm force winds. By around lunchtime and just after lunchtime, hurricane force wind gusts will start to arrive to the west coast of Florida near Sarasota and Tampa. And then once we go later into the afternoon, the wind field is going to continue to grow in size. It's going to be an intense hurricane, and we are going to see the potential for hurricane force wind gusts even near Tampa Bay. But the Gainesville area and then back over near Cedar Key, Tallahassee, going to start to see those winds really ramp up by tomorrow evening, and eventually by landfall, we're going to be talking about substantial wind gusts, especially near the coastline. I would expect wind gusts as high as 120 to 150 miles per hour near where the eye makes landfall, which will probably be near like the Horseshoe Beach area, just to the south of Tallahassee, near Perry, Florida. Those areas are going to be hit the hardest. Power outages are almost certain in those areas at this point, so you need to make sure if you are staying there, have flashlights ready to go, have maybe a weather radio if you have that ready to go. If you have, iPads, iPod touches, iPod shuffles, whatever you might have that has light sources, charge those things up because those areas are going to be dealing with the potential for some very high wind speeds. Even across the rest of Florida, we're still talking about tropical storm force wind gusts. I wouldn't be surprised if these wind gusts over here are actually 5 to 10 miles per hour higher than what this computer model is showing. So if you're anywhere like Daytona Beach, Jacksonville, Orlando, I can expect at least 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts as at least a peak here in the state of Florida. And then once we go into the early morning hours Friday, wind gusts continue to stay high, but they're definitely not going to be as high as what we're going to be talking about Thursday night. And the winds will continue to stay somewhat high until probably Friday afternoon and evening with lots of dry air, hopefully on the backside of that. Hopefully it'll cool down areas a little bit. Back over into the southeast in the Ohio Valley, we are going to be still talking about some significant winds. Again, power outages are going to be scattered, potentially even numerous, across parts of upstate South Carolina, western South Carolina, eastern Tennessee, and northern Georgia. Current thinking is that we're going to be seeing 60 to 75 mile per hour wind gusts at the peak in these areas, with a widespread area at least around 40 to 55 miles per hour. There are a lot of trees across this area, so if you are anywhere near, maybe basically what I'm saying is there's a lot of trees. We're going to probably see high winds. So power outages, pretty, I would say, likely, at least at this point, for a lot of these areas. So again, make sure that you have flashlights ready to go, your generator ready to go, whatever it might be. Once we go into later Friday, this will continue to move to the north. It'll start to really broaden out in terms of its wind field. And so we'll be talking about a widespread area from Ohio back into Arkansas with the potential for 30 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts Friday evening. And this dies out as we go into Saturday. All right, let's go back to this screen. And let's go back to the power outage threat. Now, I'm going to make it known right off the bat. This is a graphic that James Pettis made. I want to make it known right off the bat, though. Let's just ignore this key on the left side of your screen because it's a little bit different than what he put on here. But what I'm going to say here is that we are expecting widespread power outages, essentially, anywhere in the purple shaded area. So if you're anywhere near Tampa, Tallahassee, southern Georgia, you are basically in the threat here for some widespread power outages. That doesn't mean you're guaranteed to not have power tomorrow, but it's pretty likely that you're not going to have power tomorrow anywhere in the purple shaded area. That is just west of Orlando there, back into southern Georgia, and again, pretty much the entire Big Bend of Florida. In addition to that, we are expecting scattered to numerous power outages in the dark red shaded area. That goes all the way up until Atlanta, Georgia, even over near Macon and also near Savannah, Georgia. Those areas are expecting at least some scattered to numerous power outages. Western South Carolina, we can also expect scattered power outages there. Anywhere up and down the Treasure Coast and the Space Coast of Florida, we are also expecting scattered to numerous power outages out of the wind field, and then also back into Southwest Florida, same thing goes. The only place that's kind of safe, I would say, from probably seeing that many power outages will probably be the Miami area, Miami-Dade County. Even then, we are probably at least going to see some isolated power outages down there. And then also some isolated to scattered power outages will be possible in the light red shaded area that goes all the way up into Chattanooga, Tennessee, all the way into southeastern Kentucky, western Virginia, North Carolina, and also almost all of South Carolina in that threat. And this is also another graphic that James Pettis made. This is the threat when it comes... And by the way, this is not a tropical storm anymore. These graphics were made last night, but it still pertains to today. This is what it shows in terms of the potential wind field here as this approaches the coastline. At least Category 2 force winds are expected around and just south of Tallahassee, near Perry, Florida. Also near Apalachicola, essentially Taylor County. You're going to probably see the worst out of this hurricane. And then tropical storm force winds will be possible anywhere in the orange shaded area and yellow shaded area. I would expect Gainesville, Florida, probably going to see hurricane force wind gusts at some point. So obviously you're on the cusp here of like middle to high end tropical storm force winds. I think it'll be a little bit higher for you when it comes to the wind speeds back over near Gainesville. Albany as well, back over in Georgia, expecting right around hurricane force wind gusts. All right. That's the threat for winds. We still have a lot of other threats to go through. I know we're already 20 minutes into the stream. I'm still talking. There's a lot of stuff that's happening. We got storm surge threat to cover, we got the flooding threat to cover, and we have the tornado threat to cover, which the tornado threat currently looks like it's going to be a big deal tomorrow. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's go into the storm surge next, then we'll go to flooding, and then we'll go over to the tornado threat, because the tornado threat honestly looks like it's going to be pretty big tomorrow. So beginning with the storm surge threat. It's going to be pretty historic, in my opinion. I mean, this is, the higher end spectrum of storm surge forecasts. 10 to 15 feet of storm surge is currently in the forecast near the Big Bend of Florida. That is huge. That is literally 2 times the height of me. I'm, 8'7". This is almost 2 times higher than what my height is. It's crazy, right? So basically what we're talking about here is significant storm surge right along the coastline, and this will move well inland. I'm going to show you a storm surge map in a second to show you how far inland this could go, but it's going to be substantial back over in the Big Bend of Florida. It's going to be really crazy, but again, 10 to 15 feet of storm surge expected there. This is literally life-threatening. If you stay there along the coastline, you might not be here Friday. That's what I'm basically telling you. So I know it sounds, eerie, but that's what I'm basically saying at this point. The winds are going to bring a lot of the water inland. It's going to be very dangerous to be there. Even if you have a 2-story building, it's possible that your home might not be there tomorrow if you're near the coastline, especially like in Cedar Key, for example. So if you are in the Big Bend and you are under an evacuation order, you should be taking that seriously. This is a big deal. 10 to 15 feet of storm surge is substantial. That is literally 2 to 3 times, more height essentially than what you are when it comes to height. If you're 5 feet tall, imagine seeing 15 feet storm surge. That's going to be 3 times higher than your height. It is substantial. Back over in Tampa Bay, we are going to be talking about 5 to 8 feet of storm surge. This forecast could change a little bit, but with the magnitude and how large this hurricane is going to be, we are going to see storm surge literally pummeling across essentially the entire coast, or at least the entire west coast of Florida. The only area that really is safe from storm surge is anywhere along the Treasure Coast back into southeast Florida, and then maybe back over here, back closer to like Mobile, Alabama. Otherwise, you have a potential for storm surge anywhere else. Now, storm surge that's not nearly as life-threatening unless you're really close to the coastline is like this right here near like the South Sante River in South Carolina, all the way back through the Flagler-Volusia County line in Florida. Like this sort of thing, like it is dangerous, especially if you're near the beach, but if you're further inland, it's usually not that big of a deal. But this stuff right here, this is going to go potentially 20 plus miles inland. Like it's a big deal when we're talking about 15 feet of storm surge in a very flat, state. Florida is not a state that has mountains. All right, so like this is a pretty big deal when it comes to storm surge. And here's a graphic. This basically sums it up for you. I mean, unless you're 15 feet tall, which I don't think anybody in this chat is 15 feet tall, this is essentially what we're talking about. Storm surge is going to be very significant. Even if you're on the second floor of a building, you're not necessarily safe. All right, so you do not want to be risking it, especially if you're near the coastline, especially if you're back over in the Big Bend of Florida. I mean, like seriously, like even 3 feet of storm surge can literally reach a kid's height. It's crazy. So, take evacuation orders seriously. All right. Next threat, flooding. Flooding is going to be another big deal, especially back up in Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. We have a big update when it comes to flooding, first off, but we'll show you that in a second. I want to begin with the rainfall accumulation that's forecasted. We are expecting closer to a foot of rain back over in the Big Bend of Florida near Apalachicola. There will be pretty much a widespread area between 4 to 8 inches of rain all the way in this, basically anywhere in that black circle I just drew. So Georgia, Florida, back into North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, all included in that potential for some pretty significant flooding. But the more significant flooding and the potential for catastrophic flooding, I would say, is definitely a possibility back over in this part of the country. That is western North Carolina, upstate South Carolina, and northeast Georgia. That is where we have the potential for 8 to 12 inches of rain. Not necessarily, big deal if you're like in a maybe a little bit higher elevation of an area, but if you're in like a low-lying area, this is pretty significant. If you are, near a mountain, we could see the potential for like mudslides or something like that, but more than anything, what we're talking about here is the potential for a widespread 8 to 12 inches of rain in Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina in this area. The potential for over a foot of rain is possible in some localized areas. They have gone ahead and issued a rare high risk for excessive rainfall. This is the highest risk that you can get on the scale. The risk for flash flooding is high if you're anywhere in this area here. That is just to the east of Chattanooga, just to the south of Knoxville. That is in northeast Georgia, very far upstate South Carolina, Carolina, and also very far western North Carolina, where that high risk is. Now, don't pay attention too much to the high risk if you're not there. If you're in the moderate risk, this is still a big deal. A moderate risk is not very common either. We are still talking about the potential for, flash flooding in these areas as well that could lead to some flooding even inside of buildings in some cases, especially if you get over a foot of rain. It's very possible. So that's anywhere from Virginia all the way back over into the Big Bend of Florida and also the majority of Georgia. We're going to save that graphic for later. All right, we're almost to the finish line with the threats. I mean, again, we've been live for 25 minutes talking about everything with this, and the threats are just crazy. We have so many of them. Now we're going into the tornado threat. This is probably going to be one of the biggest things that we're going to be talking about tomorrow when it comes to inland threats. Not necessarily coastline threats, but inland threats. This will be a bigger deal. This is today's tornado threat. We currently have a 2% tornado risk across Florida, Georgia. In addition to that, I'm going to move it so you can have more in a wide shot here. But Florida, Georgia, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, a very low-end tornado risk today. This is not a major concern in my opinion today. It is a very low threat, but it is something that you want to be, having a tornado action plan ready to go for today. You also want to make sure that you have multiple ways to receive alerts. The next thing is Thursday, which is tossing trampolines on tall trees Thursday. All right. This is going to be a pretty big deal as well. We're going to be talking about the potential here for a 10% tornado risk. That is what's currently in place from the Storm Prediction Center. That is going to include areas like southern North Carolina, eastern Georgia, and that's pretty much it for the 10% tornado risk. The 5% tornado risk goes into South Carolina, back into central Florida. That is that yellow shaded area. And then the marginal threat, which is the green shaded area, that is your 2% tornado risk, which goes from North Carolina all the way back over into southern Florida. So it is a pretty large area in terms of the tornado risk for tomorrow. Here's that view of the tornado risk. Again, notice the 10% that's in place. The last time we had a 10% for a hurricane was Hurricane Beryl. And if you don't recall, Hurricane Beryl spawned over 100 tornadoes. I'm not saying we're going to see 100 tornadoes. I don't think we'll see anywhere close to that, since this is only going to be really a 1 to maybe 2 day event. With that said, I would expect at least several tornadoes tomorrow across the state of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and also back over into North Carolina. The NATO cast outlook for today, this is an experimental tool. Their forecast is not really the same as the Storm Prediction Center for today. They have a slightly higher chance back over near Tampa and Sarasota. I personally agree with this. If we get some outer bands later tonight, we could see a couple of tornadoes near Tampa and Sarasota. And then also the 2 and 3% tornado risks back over in North and South Carolina. NatoCast went a little bit crazier, though, for tomorrow. They have a 30% tornado risk back over in South Carolina and a very small sliver of Georgia. Again, I wouldn't pay too much attention, though, to the probabilities. They are much higher than the Storm Prediction Center. I don't necessarily agree with this forecast, but I do think it has a good representation of where the highest tornado risk will be in nature tomorrow. So that's the only reason why I'm showing you. Otherwise, it's just kind of like it's just kind of there just so you can kind of see at least where the highest risk is. All right, hopefully the last graphic until we start to answer questions and stuff. This is now into the future radar, and this is going to give you an idea of the tornado risk as well for tomorrow, and also the landfall timing. So for today, a few tornadoes possible back over in Georgia, North Carolina, back through Alabama. There is a chance tonight that we are live, potentially even covering a few of those tornadoes that are happening, so make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified when our next live stream and when our next video is. This is what it looks like overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. Again, outer bands will start to approach Florida. Low-end tornado risk with anything that is close to the state. Once we get closer to sunrise, those outer bands really start to intensify just offshore of Florida. These are the ones that we're going to be watching for that greater tornado potential. So the west coast of Florida, going to be the area that we have to watch the closest for the potential for, again, a few or even potentially several tornadoes, and probably at least several fish-nados offshore, just off the coast of Florida. This is what it looks like just after sunrise. We're going to be watching 2 different areas, one of which we could see a couple of isolated spin-ups back over in South Carolina and Georgia early tomorrow morning. And then on the flip side of things, this is really where we're talking about the main concern for that tornado threat. But we might see a couple of storms offshore of South Carolina try to produce an isolated tornado threat. This is by lunchtime. We'll continue to see some of these outer bands approaching Tampa and Sarasota. Again, that's where the greatest tornado threat will be. across parts of western Florida. And then eventually, as we go into the late afternoon and early evening, those outer bands will start to move more inland. That tornado threat will begin to increase more in central and western Florida. A few tornadoes also going to be possible in southern Georgia as we go into the late afternoon and evening. The eye of the hurricane starts to approach the Big Bend of Florida. And then as we go into the late evening and early overnight hours, we'll see another spawning of more storms from those outer bands that'll produce another threat for tornadoes as we go into the late evening and overnight hours. That's going to exist from approximately Tampa and Sarasota all the way back up through Jacksonville and Savannah, Georgia. And then overnight into Friday morning, this continues to move to the north. We'll probably still be dealing with at least a few tornadoes back over in South Carolina as those storms continue to move inland. We'll still be dealing with very heavy rainfall back over in Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. And then once we go into later Friday, we'll have another tornado risk probably continuing up into North Carolina. And this is what it looks like right now for North Carolina going into Friday afternoon. Again, notice some of these outer bands here. Those are going to be the ones that are most capable of an elevated tornado threat. I think by late Friday afternoon into the evening hours, we start to see a much lower chance in nature of there being, tornadoes in general. So I think our tornado range right now is basically from tonight all the way until Friday around and just after lunchtime. I think as we go later into Friday, the tornado risk definitely starts to die down a little bit. All right, I real quickly want to go back to here. Apparently somebody's saying there's rotation in Georgia. I do want to check that out real quick. Let's take off the cone real quick. And by the way, we'll be answering questions, talking more about Hurricane Helene in just a moment. I just need to check out what we might be looking at here. A lot of this does not look organized, but we're going to check it out and make sure we're not seeing anything. Now, I'm not really seeing anything. There's a special weather statement, but they did mention the potential for 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts and a increased chance of a brief tornado. So this storm right here that's going towards Villa Rica in Georgia might produce an isolated tornado. Here's a live shot also in Georgia right now. That's one of the storms up there. Pretty nice shot right now. By the way, today's stream is brought to you by Radar Omega. You can download it with the top link in the description below on iOS and Android. It'll help keep you ahead of the hurricane. Make sure to download it. It's only $8.99. Has tons of features like the National Hurricane Center tropical suit, and as well as the Hurricane Hunter data. You can get all of that inside of the app, the latest cone, all that sort of stuff. And if you are a subscriber inside of the Radar Omega app, guess what you get? You get multiple different Meso vort projects back over here along the Big Bend of Florida. There's one live cam that's currently being set up that's back over in Apalachicola. There's another one over here that's going to be closer to Horseshoe Beach. So that's another live camera that we're going to have. This is what it looks like now. By tomorrow, this thing is going to be, way over this rock wall that we have here. So we are expecting substantial storm surge here. Right now it's pretty quiet, but 10 to 15 feet of storm surge is forecasted there. And then our other camera right now is currently positioned back over in Horseshoe Beach. This is the Horseshoe Beach camera. The other one's up back near Jenna. But the Horseshoe Beach camera, that's what it looks like right now. Again, looks quiet. It looks like a normal day here in Florida, but trust me, by tomorrow it's going to be, a completely different story. When it comes to the bench camera, I don't remember where the bench camera was. Does anybody know what town it was in? I'm not sure if we're going to have it yet, but I would still say it's possible because they've only set up 3 cameras, and I'm guessing there's going to be more than that. But I'm guessing we're going to have the bench camera. But, yeah, that's the latest there. I don't know if anybody remembers what town it was in. By the way, this is the outer bands right now of Helene. We already have outer bands reaching the Florida Keys right now. And then we have some storms offshore, probably a couple of fishnados happening northwest of Key West. So the outer bands, they're still relatively far out, but I mean, by tonight, we'll start to see more of those approaching the west coast of Florida, mainly from Tampa back through areas like Cape Coral. So apparently Connor's flight got delayed. That is unfortunate. Horseshoe Beach camera? Was it Horseshoe Beach with the camera that had the bench? I don't see the bench right now. We might not have a bench cam. I don't know. Unless there's a bench in this little outpost thing right here. I'm not sure if we're gonna have a bench cam. Alright, let's get into questions, and let me go back to... Let's go back to satellite real quick. Again, this is what Hurricane Helene looks like right now over Cancun. It's just northeast of Cancun right now. It is really beginning to intensify as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico. Again, this is officially a Category 1 hurricane. Maximum sustained winds currently at 80 miles per hour. It is expected to continue to intensify throughout the day today. Category 3 hurricane expected tomorrow. I personally think that this will be making landfall as a high-end Category 3 hurricane or a low-end Category 4 hurricane in the state of Florida. And again, friendly reminder, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Again, we're going to have another live update at some point tonight, probably. And also, we are also going to have another video at some point today. So if you are new to the channel, highly recommend you subscribe and click the bell icon so you're notified with the latest update here on the channel. All right. Thank you, Cameron, for the super chat. Thank you also, Maggie, for becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities. I will be answering questions in a second. I'm trying to get to the tab here. Thank you, Jay, for the very generous $20 super chat. Appreciate that. Volume of rainfall in Nashville, Tennessee. I think Nashville, Tennessee will be more on the cusp of like 2 to 4, maybe 2 to 4 inches of rain, possibly slightly higher in some, isolated spots, but I don't think Nashville is going to be too bad. Again, this is the rainfall outlook from the Weather Prediction Center and the National Weather Service. They're currently thinking back over near Nashville, somewhere in the ballpark of 2 to 4 inches of rain. Again, the worst of the rain and the potential for flash flood emergencies will exist, especially back over where that high risk for excessive rainfall is right now. And that's back over here again, just to the east of Knoxville and just to the east of Chattanooga. And so that area is going to be hammered, I think, when it comes to rainfall. Unfortunately, that's going to be where we have the worst of the impacts. Thank you, Karen, for the super chat. Appreciate that. Thank you, CB, for the $10 super chat. Up to 18 inches of rain on the warning from local weather in the Smokies. Yeah, I mean, we could see a couple of spots near 18 inches of rain. It wouldn't shock me. The RRFS model, which is an experimental model, I'm going to check what it shows for rainfall accumulation. The convective allowing models like this one usually pick up pretty well on total rainfall accumulation, like at least the maximum possibility. And yeah, that does not look good. Let me zoom in here. Look at this. So today we're going to see a lot of rain, or really overnight tonight, tomorrow morning, we're going to see a lot of rain. But look at this area right here. The RRFS model currently indicating possibly some spots of upwards of 20 inches of rain just to the north of Athens and just northeast of Atlanta. That is potentially going to be catastrophic in northeast Georgia, and that goes into even parts of western North Carolina. So that's not a good thing. Thank you, Easily, also for the super chat. Yeah, I just looked. There's a little bit of rotation, so, but nothing really significant right now. If it does get tornado warned, we'll definitely go to it. Thank you, C Sharp Major, for the $5 super chat. Do you mean wobbling back and forth? If you mean it's going to be wobbling back and forth, hurricanes often do wobble back and forth. So, I mean, the cone of uncertainty right now, let's pull that up on the map here. This is the cone of uncertainty. Again, we could see this hurricane make landfall anywhere between Panama City, Florida, all the way back closer to Horseshoe Beach, just south of Perry. The current thinking is that the landfall will be near Apalachicola. So that's the current thinking as of right now when it comes to the landfall. With that said, it very easily could wobble back and forth kind of like this. I mean, it won't be like that sharp, but we can see it wobble back and forth like this. It happens pretty often, especially when we're seeing some sort of intensification. So, yeah. But unfortunately, wobbles and eye wall replacement cycles, they are very hard to predict. They are almost unpredictable. So, I mean, they pretty much are unpredictable. We don't really know when they're going to happen. So, unfortunately, that's just kind of the situation that we're in, is where, we're not going to have really a great idea of what's going to happen right up until landfall. But what we think is going to happen, if none of that stuff happens, if we don't have an eye wall replacement, or if we don't have, something along those lines, this is more than likely going to make landfall as either high-end Cat 3 or a low-end Cat 4. Thank you, Ryan, for the super chat. Orange County, Florida. I think the Orange County area, really anywhere in central Florida, is mostly going to be a wind concern. Let's actually go over to the RRFS. I'm curious what it shows for wind gusts. See if it's realistic. This is actually realistic. I actually like this model for this. This is what it shows for wind gusts as we go to Thursday evening. 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts, maybe up near 60 to 65 near Orlando. Storm surge is going to be possible right along the east coast of Florida with the wind, but it should be pretty minimal. But near Daytona Beach, back up through Jacksonville and into southern South Carolina. Winds potentially just around and just offshore near 70 miles per hour. but inland will be closer to 55, 60. But yeah, tropical storm force winds being the main concern. Tornado threat will also have to be watched for as we go into tomorrow afternoon and evening. Is there really any questions about the storm in terms of strength and direction? I would say direction is becoming more likely to be in the Big Bend. We just don't know really where. It could be anywhere from Panama City, which is just west of Apalachicola. It could also be back over here in the Big Bend somewhere, which is where we think it's going to make landfall. So not really many questions when it comes to where it makes landfall. I would say the biggest question that we have right now is going to be the intensity upon landfall. We have new computer models coming in right now. The latest hurricane model runs are literally coming in as we speak. The latest HAFSB model run is coming in. So let's go ahead and see what this is showing. We're going to compare and contrast the two. Let me just quickly copy and paste this into another tab. Let's go back to the 6Z run. Okay, so this is what it showed for about 3 o'clock on Thursday. This is earlier. 916 millibars. And then let's see what it shows now for that same time. 933. So yeah, that feels more realistic to me. So this would, I mean, even then, that's still a little bit on the higher side of things. But this one, the model update, at least the most recent model run here from the HAFSB, which is, again, a hurricane model. It is built for hurricanes. It's pretty accurate usually. It is a little bit weaker than the previous run. This is still right around high-end Cat 3, Cat 4 type strength, though, west of Tampa. We can't go any further yet, but we'll see what it shows here. It'll load in the next few frames here in a second. Tucker, probably till like 2:30-ish. Thank you, Caleb, for the super chat. I wouldn't say Tennessee's going to see really much in terms of tornadoes. Let's go to Friday's outlook for severe weather. This is what it looks like for Friday. So again, this is our outlook for severe weather each day in terms of tornadoes. This is today. Again, low-end tornado risk from Virginia back through Florida. This is what it looks like tomorrow. Got a 10% tornado risk. That's a pretty high risk, by the way, when it comes to a tropical cyclone producing tornadoes. That's for Georgia and South Carolina. This is going to Friday. Friday currently does not have a risk in Tennessee. I think our main concern will really mostly be in North Carolina. I could see there being a slight risk for tornadoes in parts of North Carolina. I also could see this risk being a little bit larger. So that's the current thinking. Thank you, Ryan, for the super chat. I think if any direction changes happen with the current track, if the computer models wobble anymore, I think the more likely scenario is that this goes a little bit further out here to the east. So maybe a little bit further east, near like Perry, Florida, maybe for a landfall. But I don't really think it'll wobble too much more to the west of where these lines are. Like, I really think the furthest west that this makes landfall would be Panama City. Even then, I really don't think it's going to go over there. I think it's going to make landfall somewhere here in this Big Bend or Apalachicola. I find it hard to believe it'll make landfall here, even though you guys are in the cone of uncertainty. Like, my personal thinking is that this cutoff low, it's going to be far enough to the southeast to pull this more to the north, but I think it'll not be enough to pull, like, to Panama City. I think it's going to be somewhere in here where we see the landfall, somewhere in, like, here. But, again, you should be prepared if you're in the cone of uncertainty for landfall no matter what. That's just my thoughts. So, again, it's subject to change. We could see things change tonight, too, especially as this rapidly intensifies. Thank you, Maggie, for the generous $20 super chat. Put some W's in the chat for Maggie. Hey, no problem. Appreciate you tuning in. And stay safe. It's going to be a very busy next few days. Alright, this camera's not up yet. Some people are saying Keaton Beach, Florida was where we had that camera. I don't know where Keaton Beach, Florida even is. Where's Keaton Beach? There is a chance that we have a bench camera, guys. I can't guarantee it, but if we have a bench camera, we are going to release that bench t-shirt again. You Desert for the super chat. How about Lakeland? Lakeland, Florida, same thing like, Orange County, pretty much dealing with tropical storm force winds. The potential for a few tornadoes will also be possible in central Florida tomorrow. Not expecting much of a tornado risk tonight, though. Will I visit the beach after the hurricane? I will consider it. I think I will consider visiting the beach after this is all done. Maybe on like Saturday or something. I'm definitely going to consider it. But I'm not 100% sure yet. I actually might go out there and, like, I don't know, post some YouTube shorts or something. It is a possibility. Not sure yet, though. Not sure. I think if Connor and Freddy are like stuck out there and they're still there, I actually will almost 100% go out there, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It also depends on where this makes landfall. I mean, if it makes landfall over here near Panama City, I feel like it's a much lower chance, but if it makes landfall in the Big Bend, I think I might go out there and look a little bit on like Saturday or something like that. Thank you, Static, for the super chat. The wind across this part of Florida near like Lake City back through even southern Georgia. We're talking about hurricane force wind potential. Let's go back over to the wind speeds here. I don't know which graphic it was. It's this one. That's what it looks like currently for the wind gust potential during the late evening on Thursday. So again, that's going to be from about Gainesville, Georgia, back up into southern Georgia. Or sorry, Gainesville, Florida, back into southern Georgia. The potential for 70 to 85 mile per hour wind gusts is expected in those areas. So if you're in these areas, that's what we're talking about for the wind gust potential. And then as we go into the evening, the winds will probably start to die down a little bit. But I think the peak wind gusts near like Lake City will be around 85, 90 miles per hour. And then southern Georgia, I don't know what place you put there. I think it was like Tifton, Georgia. I'm not sure what Tifton is, but basically up into southern Georgia, we're still talking about upwards of 70 to 85 mile per hour wind gusts at the minimum. Currently, this model has wind gusts near Valdesta at almost 100 miles per hour. So that's pretty significant. And really, almost all of this part of southern Georgia at really significant wind gusts. I'm telling you guys, we're going to have widespread power outages in the southeast. I mean, it's not going to be everywhere, but with what we're seeing with the trends and whatnot, this is not really good. This is, again, over 2 times larger than what Hurricane Idalia was. So, you know, Idalia produced some widespread power outages, but it was a much more localized area in nature. This is it's going to be a huge hurricane. And, I mean, again, we're going to be talking about pretty much widespread power outages, like, all in this area. At the minimum. So, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. That might even go further north. I mean, the RRFS has us bringing really high wind gusts even into the northern Georgia, which I could see happening too, but I mean, we could see widespread power outages in like this entire area. So, again, if you're anywhere in this part of Georgia or Florida, just make sure you're prepared. Again, I'm not trying to scare you guys. I'm just trying to, you know, tell you, you should be prepared at least for this potential. It's a pretty good likelihood that we're at least going to have scattered power outages, but potentially even widespread. Okay, let me check chat again here. Thank you, Lori, for the super chat. Thank you, Jennifer, for the $5 super chat. I don't know what state you're talking about, Jennifer. So you can tell me the state. Tell me, like, if you guys are asking questions about a specific area of, like, Florida or something, please give me either a city that I would know of, like, you know, any of these on the map that you can see here, or something maybe more local, or tell me a part of the state, because I'm not going to know where some of these places are. It just makes it easier if you're asking, like, about areas. Thank you, Natasha, for the $100 super chat. Put some W's in the chat for Natasha with the Hurricane Caffeine Fund. Appreciate the generosity. My cousin is a lineman heading to ride this out in Florida. Stay safe. Yeah, I appreciate you super chatting, and yeah, well, hopefully you stay safe. It is not an easy thing to be out there. You know, first responders are going to have you know, be doing a lot tomorrow for sure in the Big Bend of Florida and potentially even other places. There's going to be a lot of trees that fall tomorrow. I mean, it's the nature with any sort of hurricane. So, yep. Do appreciate him helping out Florida. Thank you, Chandler, for the super chat. Knoxville, Tennessee, total rainfall accumulation. It's going to be a little bit higher than Nashville, that's for sure, but it won't be nearly as high as what we're going to see in that high risk. Current thinking is Knoxville will probably be around 2 to 4, maybe 3 to 5 inches of rainfall. Destin, Florida, right now, at least tropical storm force winds. If this makes landfall in Panama City, it could be higher than that, though. Hey, Jeff, for becoming a 4-month member. I don't know if we're going to get some live shots on the bench. I mean, if I go out there Saturday and look at like damage and whatnot, I mean, I might go see the bench. We'll see. Maybe I'll take some photos with the bench. Hey, you wide awake for the $20 super chat. No problem. Appreciate you tuning in. Hey, you also Lisa for the $20 super chat. Appreciate that. Hey, Morning for the super chat. Cape Coral should be mostly storm surge and tropical storm force winds. Obviously, this hurricane is making landfall way off to your northwest, but we are still going to feel the impacts all the way down near Cape Coral. About 275 miles to your northwest is where this is going to be making landfall, which is kind of crazy. With that said, though, storm surge really going to be the biggest impact, I think. Even then, it's like 3 to 5 feet, and then and also the potential for some tropical storm force winds. Thank you, Real, for the super chat. I think I got all the super chats. All right, back to chat here. Who will be chasing this? We have Corey Gherkin on our channel. We have Corey Gherkin. We'll have Brandon Kopic, Stormrunner Media, Connor Croft probably. I don't know if Connor's gonna make it right now. His flight keeps getting delayed. It's like apparently delayed by 2 hours or something. I'm guessing he's gonna make it, but there's like storms. He's flying into Atlanta and there's storms there, so who knows? We'll have PA Storm Trackers. Ben Williams is, I'm pretty sure, chasing this, and then Cannon Calton. So we have like 7 chasers, I think. My plan right now for landfall coverage tomorrow, I don't think we're going to be live for 12 straight hours, all right? I'm just going to be honest with you guys, like, we've done a lot of live updates already. We've already done a lot of videos. I don't see myself being live for 12 straight hours tomorrow, even though I'd love to. I just don't think it's reasonable. What I think is more reasonable is I'll go live when the impacts start to ramp up in Florida. So we're not going to go live when it's just raining. We're going to go live when there's things actually happening in Florida, when, you know, coverage is actually needed, instead of being live at like 9 a.m. tomorrow. I mean, I might go live like 9, 10 a.m. tomorrow for like a quick 2-hour update, but like I'm not going to be live for full-blown coverage. We'll go live for full-blown coverage once the impacts start to be felt more. When that probably will start is probably around like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, realistically. We go back to the wind gusts and whatnot. I mean, we're going to start to see storm surge near Tampa probably right around 2 to 3 o'clock. But the worst of the impacts in the Big Bend will start to really be felt, I think, right around and just after dinner time. So we're going to be really live, I think, for the bulk of the main event. We're going to be live for when things are actively happening. All right, so again, if you want to, you know, have live landfall coverage, you can subscribe to our channel. It's the red button down below. It's free to do. Also, make sure you click the bell icon down below so you're notified when we do end up going live tomorrow. Because tomorrow will be a pretty long day, more than likely. We are also going to have a video, another video today at some point, probably closer to like 4 o'clock. We're probably going to go live again tonight for an update, probably closer to like 9 o'clock tonight. It'll be a little bit later than I usually go live, maybe 10 o'clock. Or sorry, video will be at 5 Eastern time, and then our live stream for trying to think. Live stream for tomorrow will probably start sometime in the afternoon, unless we do a morning update. So, and then after that, I'm not sure if we're doing live coverage Friday, so we'll see. Thank you, Gabriel, for the super chat, and Jennifer. Is Waffle House open? I have no clue. I don't know if Waffle House is closed yet in the Big Bend of Florida. All right, we have another live camera. Keaton Beach. Guys, Keaton Beach, Florida. Isn't this where the bench was? We might have the return of the bench. It is a possibility. We might have a return of the bench. The Keaton, Florida Radar Omega Meso vort is going to potentially be returning for the bench. We'll have to wait and see. It's not up yet, but once it's up, we'll let you know. A friendly reminder, today's stream is brought to you by Radar Omega. If you need a weather app to stay ahead of Hurricane Helene, highly recommend you download it. It is the top link in the description below on iOS and Android. Again, if you are a subscriber on the Radar Omega app, which begins from $4.99 a month, you get access to these cameras that are going to be looking at the storm surge right along the beach. There's already one camera up in Horseshoe Beach, Florida right now, which, again, we're not seeing anything yet. The hurricane's nowhere near Florida yet, but by tomorrow, this is going to be looking very, very different. And then we also got one in Jenna, Florida. This is what it looks like right now. We got the rock wall and everything. And then Keaton Beach, Florida. We could potentially have the bench cam returning. Yay! Bench cam was like the best part of last stream. The Debbie stream. The return of the bench. Couldn't you get like a full-blown, like, I don't know, some sort of I have to get a full-blown like thing going for that. Hashtag bench returns. Thank you, Raven, for the super chat. What's Lithia Springs, Georgia looking at? I don't know where Lithia Springs is again, or Lithia Springs. Again, please leave locations that I know of in the chat, like cities or like regions of a state, because I'm not going to know what you're talking about otherwise. Let me go back to the HAFS model. So this is the most recent run. It literally just came out. It currently has this hurricane making landfall near 930 millibars of pressure in the Big Bend of Florida. So this part of Florida currently going to be obviously the worst impacted by this hurricane, but 930 millibars of pressure. Again, that's a high end. That's at least a Cat 4. Again, the current forecast from the National Hurricane Center is that this will be a high end Cat 3 upon landfall in the Big Bend of Florida. I'm not ruling out a low end Cat 4 hurricane upon landfall, so just be prepared for that potential for sure. It is a very strong possibility. Okay. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the chat. Thank you, 410, for the $20 super chat. Put some W's in the chat for 410. Appreciate the generosity. Packing up to head to Florida. Lyman's life. Hey, stay safe. Seriously, it's definitely going to be a rough day tomorrow for literally everybody in Florida. I mean, I'm in Florida. You know, I'm not in like the cone of uncertainty here, but like, I'm still going to be feeling impacts. So it's going to be a long day tomorrow. We have a special weather statement over here in Southeast Florida. Let's check that out real quick. Or special marine warning, I mean. Alright, just wind gusts. I was about to say, maybe like an isolated water spout might be possible here in Southeast Florida today. Might actually have a water spout just to the east of West Palm Beach. It is a possibility. Georgia-Florida line. Anywhere really in this area, if you're like right in the hurricane warnings, that's where we're expecting widespread wind gusts between 70 to 100 miles per hour. Again, this is what the wind gust map looks like. You can look at the very top of your screen. Look at the wind gusts up here right along the Florida-Georgia line. Essentially ranging anywhere from 70 to 100 miles per hour during the late evening on Thursday. And then if you're back over here in like far southeast Georgia, you're still talking about at least tropical storm force winds. So be prepared for that. Again, the power outage map as of right now, at least from what James Pettis made, which I still agree with this other than the wording here, widespread I would say is more scattered to numerous. And then the purple area is where I would expect widespread power outages. So this map's still pretty accurate in my opinion. Again, if you're in the purple, you can expect, pretty much widespread power outages. The dark red area is where there will be scattered to numerous power outages. Thoughts on if the hurricane will go through Richmond Hill, Georgia, northwest of Savannah. It's not going to go directly through it, but we are at least going to see some impacts there when it comes to, again, wind speeds. Like wind gusts will be upwards of 50 to 65 miles per hour near Savannah and just northwest of there. Heavy rainfall, potentially 3 to 6 inches of rain, and those will be really the main impacts. Potentially a couple of tornadoes as well. Hope everything's going well, by the way, Heather. I don't know if Florida is more cooked than your hair. Bro, what the heck is going on? Chances this will move more west? I don't think it's going to move that much farther west. I think the cone of uncertainty is pretty reasonable at this point. The cutoff low that we have that's steering this for the most part, that at this point it's not really going to be making too many more changes over the next 24 hours. I think there's a pretty high confidence that we are going to see landfall somewhere in this area. B. Smith, no. My dad said possible 120 mile per hour wind gusts in Georgia. Is that true? I would say it's possible, like down in like this area if we have a landfall right here in the Big Bend. But other than that, I mean, the wind gusts for the most part are still at least going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 70 to 100 miles per hour anywhere here in southwestern Georgia. So power outages still expected to be pretty much numerous to even sometimes widespread. Let's actually see what they say on this hurricane warning up here. Yeah, this is some serious wording from the hurricane warning up here in southern Georgia. This is some pretty serious wording. Potential for wind greater than 110 miles per hour. The wind threat has remained nearly steady from the previous assessment. Plan for extreme wind of equivalent Category 3 hurricane force or higher. I think this is mostly just for the Big Bend. Basically anywhere in this hurricane warning, though, that's over in like this area. Go back to the details here. Potential impacts. Devastating to catastrophic. Structural damage to sturdy buildings with some complete roofing and wall failures. Complete destruction of mobile homes. Damage greatly, I don't know how to say that word, by large airborne projectiles. Locations may become uninhabitable for weeks or months. Again, this is some pretty serious wording, especially if you're in the Big Bend of Florida. That is some pretty serious wording. Numerous large trees snapped or uprooted, along with fences and roadway signs blown over. Many roads impassable from large debris, and more within urban or heavily wooded places. Many bridges, causeways, and access routes will be impassable. The widespread power and communication outages are also expected. Yeah, that's some pretty serious wording. Thank you, Crossroads, for the $9.99 super chat. I think it'll be mostly wind up in like Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and then maybe a little bit of rain. But aside from that, I'm not expecting much in those areas. And that'll be mostly Friday night to Saturday morning. Thank you, Static, for the super chat. Yeah, if you have any photos or videos, you can at me on Twitter at MaxVelocityWX at any point during the hurricane, and you can also message me on Facebook at MaxVelocityWX, and then you can also post it on our Discord server. The link's in the description for that. Thank you, Carol, for becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities. New HWRF. Oh yeah, I forgot. Let's check that out. We have a new HWRF model coming in right now. Oops. Wow. The HWRF has actually gone even more intense than before. The HAFS was going in the other direction. It was actually becoming less intense. This model is becoming more intense. So, that's interesting. But we can't go any further in time yet. This is just west of Tampa, 928 millibars. And whatever happens tonight when it comes to rapid intensification is going to tell the story for tomorrow in terms of hurricane intensity. Thank you, Brianna, for the super chat. Tornado outlook for west central Georgia. It's going to be pretty low. West central Georgia, not really in the ballpark right now for tornadoes. Like, it's a very low threat on Thursday. Today, it's a low risk. Tomorrow, it's pretty much the same risk, if not even might be a bit lower, depending on where you are in Georgia. But I'm not expecting much over there. Thank you for the super chat. Daytona Beach. Daytona Beach should be mostly just tropical storm force winds, some small storm surge along the coastline, and then, again, a tornado risk will definitely exist. It'll be a low risk. And again, your tornado risk for tomorrow is an elevated one. We have a 10% tornado risk. The last time we had a 10% tornado risk is when we had Hurricane Beryl. So it doesn't happen too often. Thank you, Ghost, for the super chat. You mentioned fishnados earlier. What about sharknados? Hey, sharknados can't be ruled out. You never know. No, but at all, like, seriousness, I do think the main concern is, I mean, there will be fishnados for sure offshore, but tornado is definitely a big concern for tomorrow. The tornado threat is pretty elevated tomorrow, so as long as we have enough instability and all that, it's going to be a pretty active day tomorrow for sure. Okay. Any news for the current weather southwest of Atlanta? We can check it out real quick while we wait for this model to come in. Take off the cone again. Let's take off the satellite, put on radar. See what's popping here in Georgia right now. I'm not really seeing much right now in Georgia. Appears as if it's mostly just wind. And like that's just gusty winds. I'm not seeing any like major storms here right now though. There are live cameras in Georgia on the Radar Omega app. We'll see if any of them have anything interesting. Hey, B. Smith for the super chat. The peak risk for tornadoes. It'll probably be tomorrow evening. So kind of like a typical type of severe weather event. Here's one live shot. Up in Georgia. It's actually a golf course, it looks like. This is a golf course. Look at that. Got a golf course over here in Georgia. Hey, Ghosty for the super chat. You checked the rainfall and wind speed we might get for Kingsland, Georgia, just north of Jacksonville. Wind speed's probably going to be in the ballpark of 50 to 65 mile per hour wind gusts. It could be again 5-10 miles per hour higher than that for its peak. And then rainfall won't be substantial there. I think it'll be more like 2 to 4 inches of rain, maybe 3 to 6 inches at the most. Am I any good at golf? Me and Connor Croft did a golf stream back in the summer. You can go watch that. I'm not too bad. The remnants will reach probably southern Illinois, but again, it's not going to be like a major impact there. And we're not expecting major impacts. So, yeah. Not expecting anything too crazy there. Just some gusty winds. Alright, this is the latest from the HWRF model. As in making landfall as a much more intense hurricane as it approaches Florida. So, yeah, the latest HWRF has gotten a little bit more intense. This is like a high-end Cat 4 scenario. Again, I don't know if we're really going to get to a high-end Cat 4, low-end Cat 5. But I do think, again, a low-end Cat 5 is definitely in play for, you know, landfall. The NAM3K model? I'm not showing the NAM3K again. The NAM3K actually isn't far off from that model, which is kind of funny, but it's still not a model that is used for hurricanes. By the way, inside of the Radar Omega app, you can access computer models if you're a subscriber, including these ones for hurricanes. We're going to go over and show you the future radar here with the HMON model. See that eye? Eye looks pretty large tomorrow according to the HMON model. This is tomorrow at 10 o'clock or so, right before landfall. Pretty large eye there, just south of Tallahassee. Again, the worst of the wind is going to be really in this core here. And so that'll move back up into Tallahassee. So, yeah, definitely going to be a pretty interesting day tomorrow. Hey, Alicia, for becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities. Thank you, Sherry, for the $9.99 super chat. Appreciate the generosity. Let's go to the HWRF. It's on here as well. That's what the HWRF looks like. Look at that thing. This thing's gonna be a beast tomorrow. I guess the one good thing about this hurricane, it's not really a good thing, but I mean, at least the good thing right now that I'm seeing on these like future radars, it's not really indicating a whole lot of instability in central Florida during the afternoon hours. And really, that probably means the tornado threat will be more of a nighttime threat. That's not a good thing. But the good thing is we might not have as much of a daytime threat for tornadoes tomorrow, but we'll have to wait and see. Again, this is a very fluid situation with the tornado risk. I think it will definitely be elevated. We're going to see several tornadoes tomorrow. It's more a matter, though, of the timing of this. It's going to depend on the instability that we have. But, like, this model, for example, at 10 o'clock shows those outer bands really ramping up in Florida. And that's where we would see more tornadic activity. So, yeah, look at that eye, though. It literally just goes right through, basically, Tallahassee. This is almost the same exact path as a Dahlia. This is what a Dahlia was. A Dahlia, though, went more to the east. This one's kind of doing that in a way. It's gonna probably do something like this. I'm gonna like probably go like more like that or something like that. That's not a really great line. Let me try to draw that again. That turned too much. It's really gonna be more north, but it's gonna be kind of like that. It's not far off from where a Dahlia made landfall. So in terms of where it's gonna make landfall, not super far off from a Dahlia. But a Dahlia again was not nearly as impactful at landfall. It ended up undergoing eyewall replacement. So unless that happens with this hurricane is going to probably be much worse. It is going to be much worse. There's almost no way it isn't worse than Idalia. So, yeah, unfortunately, this is, again, just going to be a big deal. Yeah, this is what it looks like tomorrow around 7 o'clock or so, right before landfall. Friendly reminder, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit the red button down below and subscribe. Again, we'll continue to have another live update tonight, probably. Bare minimum, we'll have another video this afternoon, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And also make sure to click the bell icon down below so you're notified with the latest live updates. So again, another live shot here. These are the Radar Omega Meso vorts. You can access these inside the app if you're a subscriber. They are going to be looking way different than this tomorrow. It's very calm right now, but the storm surge can be significant here. They're going to have several cameras here along the Florida coastline. And we got another one over here in Jenna, Florida. This is going to, again, look really different tomorrow. And then they're going to be setting one up here very soon back over in Keaton Beach, Florida. So definitely going to have a lot of interesting stuff happening tomorrow. Is Key West going to get Category 1+ winds? Let me check. Not 100% sure. Key West is going to see the impacts well before we do. Like up here in like Big Bend. Because they're going to be seeing it tomorrow morning. Right now it looks like tropical storm force winds. I wouldn't rule out like 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts back down in the Florida Keys, like down in this area. But yeah, it's not going to be super substantial over in the Florida Keys. Probably just in the tropical storm realm. Those cameras are going to be gone? They probably will. I don't know. I don't see those cameras surviving. But I don't know. Maybe they have like... Maybe they're really set up on there well. I'm not sure. I don't know what happened with Ian. I'm pretty sure they had cameras out there for Ian. I don't know what happened to the cameras then. Thank you, Ghosty, for the super chat. There is a small chance that this could go a bit further east than where the models are showing, but I mean, the most east it could go at this point would probably be just to the northwest of Cedar Key. Like, Horseshoe Beach would be like the furthest east this could make landfall at this point, in my opinion. I kind of thought this would make landfall in Cedar Key, you know, for the last few days, but it looks like that track has been continuing to shift west. Main reason why is because we have a cutoff low that's going to literally spin this thing into the low pressure system, and that's why we're going to see that weird curvature. Typically, we have a trough that is more connected to the jet stream that brings the hurricane out to sea or up the east coast. It's different this time around because this is just a closed cutoff low, so this thing's just going to circle around that low pressure system. Thank you, Ruben, for the super chat. Panama City, it's either going to be a pretty big, deal there, or it's going to be some like more minor damage. It's going to depend on where the eye goes. If this eye ends up being 30 miles more to the west, I think there will be more significant damage in Panama City. But if it stays where currently it looks like it's going to go, like near Tallahassee, then the damage there would be more just tropical storm related, like tropical storm force winds, and it wouldn't be nearly as significant. So it's going to depend on the track. Again, if it wobbles more to the west tomorrow, then it's going to be much more major. Right now, the current forecasted peak wind gusts are near 60 miles per hour. I mean, even if this is 30 miles more west, it would be probably, almost not double that, but probably another 20 to 30 miles per hour higher, which does make a pretty big difference when it comes to power outages and stuff like that. Have the two lows merged? They have not. No, they're going to merge on Friday, like evening, Saturday. That's called the Fujiwara effect, for those that are wondering. That's when we have two low pressure systems that merge into one. So if we go back over, zoom out, go to the GFS model, show you the 500 millibar chart. This is what it looks like. We got this cutoff low that's going to control the direction of this hurricane. And it's going to kind of wrap around into the hurricane. You're going to see it. All right, so this is your first low pressure system. That's the other one. Look at this as we go into Friday. Look how they just kind of merge into one. And then by Saturday, it's literally just one trough. So that's what we call the Fujiwara effect. It is very uncommon. Hey, Sizzle for the super chat. Ominous cloud t-shirt? I don't even know what that would be like, but I appreciate the super chat. Oh, I know what you mean. Okay. Yeah, maybe. Scary looking cloud t-shirt. Des Moines, Iowa. Wow, somebody's asking about Iowa in the chat. I don't think this is gonna. I mean, even if it got to Iowa, it's probably only gonna bring maybe some wind gusts. This thing's not even gonna get close to Iowa, though. Hey, Sherry, for the becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities. Thank you, Carl, for the super chat. I don't know where Dixie County is. Thank you, B. Smith, for the super chat. The new day 2 outlook from the SPC is out. All right, let's check it out. Yeah, all right, so we do have our new SPC outlook for tomorrow. The tornado risk still remains in the same area, pretty much 10% tornado risk in South Carolina and Georgia. And we have our slight risk, which is the 5% risk for tornadoes from South Carolina back into Central Florida. But no changes to the forecast by the looks of it. If there are any changes to that tornado outlook, they are very minimal. Trying to see what they have on here. Yeah, pretty much the same as before. No major changes to the forecast. For tornadoes tomorrow. Okay. Some strong tornadoes also possible. Strong tornadoes definitely possible tomorrow. It should be a pretty low risk, but it is a possibility tomorrow. We have any strong tornadoes who they usually don't last very long, but we could see like a brief EF2, EF3 type tornado, maybe like on the east coast of Florida or maybe southeast Georgia. I mean, it's possible. It's usually a pretty low threat with tropical cyclones. What's the difference between Category 3, 4, and 5 wind? Well, Category 3 hurricane, that ranges from 111 miles per hour up to about 129 or so. 130 to 155, that's a Cat 4, and then a Cat 5 would be anything over 156 or higher. So, that's the range on wind. Storm surge really varies. I mean, obviously a higher hurricane will bring higher storm surge. Like Ian, for example, Ian brought upwards of 100 wow. Yeah, 100 feet of storm surge would be crazy. It brought upwards of 18 feet of storm surge. That was the forecast for Ian. The forecast for this hurricane is up to 15 feet for peak storm surge. So, I mean, storm surge varies. Depends on the size of the storm. It also depends on the wind. But, I mean, I think 15 feet is a pretty realistic peak right now for storm surge, but it just varies on the size of the storm and whatnot, and also where it's going into. Because I mean, if it goes into like a bay, let's just say out of like, obviously this isn't going to happen, but if it were to happen, like let's say a low pressure, like the hurricane's right here, Tampa Bay is it's a bay, and there's no way of that water really getting out. So all that water would literally just pummel in there. We could easily see with a hurricane like this, 15 feet of storm surge if it made landfall over there as like a Cat 4. So. Also, I want to go to the storm surge inundation map real quick. I do want to show you guys the storm surge forecast here. This is like they have this on the National Hurricane Center website. Definitely recommend you check this out. You can see how far inland this storm surge is going to go tomorrow. Like, it almost reaches the south side of Tallahassee. Like, that's how significant it's going to be over there. It gets up close to, like, Woodville. Mostly going up, like, the rivers and stuff like that. But essentially, 9 feet plus a storm surge possible all up and down this marshland. Horseshoe Beach and Cedar Key going to see all of that as well. And then back down near Tampa Bay, there is going to be storm surge, but luckily not nearly as, substantial as the Big Bend here. But yeah, that storm surge is going to go really far inland. That's like 20, 30 miles or so inland in some spots. Thank you, MK, for becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities. Thank you, Smiley, for the super chat. There's a 4-day music festival in Louisville, Kentucky, starting Thursday through Sunday. Do you think there'll be a washout? That's a interesting question. I don't know about Thursday. Let me look real quick. I would say it's going to be probably more on and off when it comes to rain. Like, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think Friday, Saturday, you'll have better shot for rain, but it'll be on and off, and then Sunday will probably start to clear out more, because that trough will start to weaken out. I would say, though, tomorrow it's going to probably just be mostly cloudy. There won't be... This storm's still going to be pretty far down to your south. Okay, let me, I do want to show you guys this too. Let me show you guys this real quick. This is kind of interesting too. I saw this morning. I don't know. I don't think I showed it in today's video. But you know what's crazy about this entire thing? This is the 7-day forecast from the Weather Prediction Center in terms of total rainfall accumulation. You guys see anything interesting about this? Like, basically, the only rain that's going to fall over the next 7 days is going to be in the southeast, the Ohio Valley, and the northeast. There's going to be basically nothing west of this hurricane. Might be one of the craziest maps I've ever seen. If this hurricane did not exist, we might not see any rain this week. it's kind of crazy, not gonna lie. So, yeah. Crazy stuff. The next National Hurricane Center update is in about 25 minutes. Let's check out the recon and see if there's anything interesting happening with the aircrafts. I'm not sure if there are any in there right now. Yeah, alright, so we don't have any hurricane hunters actively in the hurricane, but one just left. And so we'll have more recon data coming in a little bit. Probably won't be until like the 5 p.m. advisory, though, until that data actually means something. And again, this is what currently Hurricane Helene looks like right now on the infrared imagery. Yeah, it's in its early stages, but it is going to start to rapidly intensify later today. And eventually it'll become a Cat 2 probably tonight. West Palm Beach, Florida, mostly just wind. Gusty winds between 40 to 55 miles per hour will be possible in those areas. No problem, Justin. No problem. Did your professor do okay with this plane trip? I don't think he's flown out yet. Yeah, I know of somebody that's going to be flying on one of these Hurricane Hunter aircrafts. I don't think he's flown out, though, yet. The flight takes off somewhere in West Florida, I think, tonight. So... am I still thinking high-end Cat 3? I think this will probably make landfall as a low-end Category 4 hurricane. But I could see this still being a high-end Cat 3 on landfall. Alright, the camera's being set up over there in Keaton Beach. We're going to probably find out soon if we have the bench camera. So, we'll see. Everybody's wanting to know, will the bench return? It might be. Hey, Alicia for the super chat. Any word about Winter Haven, Florida? Isn't that like near Orlando somewhere? Like northwest Orlando? Winter Springs? Winter Garden? Brother, wow, there's so many winters. I like how they have all these places called winter in Florida when Florida literally doesn't have winter. Alright, southwest. That's mostly going to be tropical storm force wind gusts. Potentially isolated tornado or two tomorrow. A couple inches of rain. That's the main concern there. But yeah, rainfall total shouldn't be too high unless you really get a big basically big, you know, storm that goes right through you. Thank you, Daisy, for the super chat. Power outages in Panama City, I would say it's going to probably be at least scattered. They could be numerous to widespread if the eye goes a little bit further west. Wind gusts around 60 miles per hour will cause probably at least some isolated power outages. So, that's the current thinking. Friendly reminder, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Like the stream as well, it does help get this out to more people. Again, if you need an app to stay ahead of the hurricane, I highly recommend you download Radar Omega. You can download it on iOS and Android. It'll keep you ahead of the hurricane with new watches and warnings, all sorts of customizability, computer models as well for the hurricane if you are a subscriber on the Radar Omega app. And if you are a subscriber on the app, you also get live access to these live cameras that'll be in place today and tomorrow ahead of the storm surge that is expected. There are going to be several of them. There are 3 right now. I'm pretty sure going to be more than 3 though. So Northwest Georgia should mostly be just rain. So flooding, rainfall possibility. Tropical storm force winds possible there too. This afternoon, I'm going to view a manufactured home I might buy. How's that for timing? I won't be signing anything today. I don't blame you at all. I do not blame you whatsoever. Where's Kingsport, Tennessee? Looks like we have a little bit of rotation just north of Johnson City, east of Churchill in Tennessee. Not a lot, but maybe an isolated tornado potential there. A lot of rain already falling up here in both Georgia and Tennessee. That's going to really just accumulate this flooding potential pretty quickly. Pretty unfortunate, but that's what we're going to be dealing with. Very dark skies right now, though, over up here just northeast of Atlanta. There are a few storms in the area. Also have some storms off the coast here of Apalachicola. But none of these really doing much of anything right now. Just mostly just ordinary kind of summertime type storms. The outer bands, again, of Helene are still well offshore. The only outer band that's even near Florida is still well offshore, south of Cape Coral. First time that we'll start to see these outer bands will be later this evening. We are starting to see, again, Helene really start to intensify. I think it's going to start rapidly intensifying over the next few hours. It looks like it's getting that look right now in satellite. That's like almost like it looks like a 6. You see this? Kind of looks like the number 6. Does that mean we're getting a Category 6 hurricane? According to TikTok, we have a Category 6. Again, Category 6 does not exist. It is just sarcasm. Thank you, Simon, for the super chat. I don't know where Homestead is in Florida. TikTok logic, absolutely. Is this a strange? This is a strange sign. We have a Category 6 hurricane. Literally looks like the number 6. Shrimp. It looks like. I mean, it looks like a shrimp too. I guess if you're hungry, this looks like a shrimp. The drawing looks bad. Thanks, appreciate it. I'm not an artist. If you couldn't tell. I'm forgetting how to draw number 6. That's how you draw 6. It's kind of like, looks like more of a shrimp. All right, that camera's still going up. Wait until that camera's fully up there. Thank you, Sketchy Jeff, for the $10 super chat. I live in southwest Georgia on the Alabama border. Should I evacuate this? I mean, again, it's hard to say because a lot of people have different situations. I mean, if you're in like a 2-story building with, you know, it's so situational because if you're in like a 2-story building, it's usually gonna be safer, even if you got like 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, as long as you're on like the lowest floor. But the problem is, if you're in like a mobile home, you know, that's a better chance that you're gonna have significant damage to a mobile home. So it's so situational. I really can't give great advice on evacuations because it's so situational. I would have to know everything about, you know, what you're looking at, and I don't feel like knowing everything about you. So I don't want to make it. Basically what I'm saying is I don't want you to have your decision based off of what I'm saying. With that said, I mean, you know, if you're under evacuation order, you should be taking evacuations. If you are on the fence about evacuating, I would recommend evacuating because it's probably better to play it safe than be sorry. But again, I really can't give great advice on evacuations because like it's so situational because you might have a home that's going to be fine. You also might be in a mobile home or trailer that could literally take serious damage to something like this. So I don't like giving advice on evacuations unless it's like a definitive yes or no. Like, you know, if you're along the Big Bend, you know, with massive storm surge coming, you should be evacuating. But further inland, it's more about what your situation is. Any cheese curds? I've not had any cheese curds. Thank you, Connor, for becoming a member for 4 months. What's the safest place to move to if in Florida? If you're trying to move to Florida, the safest place to live. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. I couldn't really tell you, because the entire state of Florida is prone to hurricanes. So if you're trying to move to Florida, I mean, I would say not the Big Bend. The Big Bend seems to be the place where everything happens. Maybe like right here. Well, I don't know what's there. Whatever's northwest of Jacksonville. Maybe move there. I'm not sure what's up there, but that might be like your safest bet. I don't know, man. Maybe just don't move to Florida if you don't want hurricanes. Thank you, Paula, for coming, or for the $10 super chat. Thank you for your generosity. Florida is full. Yes, a lot of Floridians will say that. Florida is full. You say Florida's full, but there's literally nothing in like the middle of the state. Everybody lives near the coast. If you go like inland, there's like nothing there. Unless you're going to Orlando or Gainesville. Basically nothing in the middle of the state. Could it turn east? Again, it's a possibility, but it's not going to turn that far east at this point. Like, the furthest east that I could see this making landfall would be like Horseshoe Beach. Which would be like right over here. It's outside of the cone, but it can't be ruled out. But I think at this point, it's pretty likely it's going to make landfall in the cone of uncertainty, more likely than not somewhere near Crawfordville or Carabel. Is my thinking at this point. Thank you, Samantha, for the super chat. Nashville should be mostly rain. There will be some wind gusts. Again, wind gusts perhaps around 40 to 55 miles per hour. Tornadoes not expected there. Rainfall totals probably around 2 to 4 inches of rain. They'll be mostly on Friday. There'll still be a little bit of rain left over Saturday and Sunday, but it'll be pretty on and off. Florida is super expensive for insurance. It is. You're not lying. Literally in any category, insurance is expensive as crap in Florida. It's pretty absurd. Thank you, Nation, for the super chat. Hey, good luck. I'm not sure where that is, but stay safe. If you're riding this out, hopefully you're not that close to the coastline, and hopefully you're not near the storm surge threat. Okay, this camera's up. I don't see the bench yet. This is in Keaton Beach. I'm not sure if this is in the same place. But they're still putting up that camera, so we'll give it some time. Maybe the bench returns. We're not sure yet. Thank you, Aaron, for the super chat. What about coastal Panama City flooding? Again, it's going to depend on the track of this. If it makes landfall closer to Panama City, it's going to be significant, potentially catastrophic. If it makes landfall over here, where I think it'll make landfall, near Apalachicola or Carabel, your storm surge will be much, much lower. I mean, again, the current forecast for storm surge is like, it's not that high over, like, west of Apalachicola. Like, Mexico Beach is like 2 to 4 feet right now. So it's relatively low. But if the track shifts west, it could definitely go up. I was cleaning my room. Did I miss anything? I don't think so. We've just been kind of talking about Hurricane Helene. Mostly just answering questions and stuff. No updates yet. The next National Hurricane Center update is in like 10 minutes. So we're just kind of waiting for that right now. Waiting on the update from the National Hurricane Center. And then we'll see what it looks like. It might be closer to a Cat 2 at this point. But we don't have any new recon data, so they might only up the intensity by like 5 miles per hour or something like that. I don't see much changing in this update either. The update that'll probably have the most change will be the 5 p.m. update. No problem, Michael. Northeast South Carolina tornado threat. The tornado threat in South Carolina right now is on the higher side of things in southern South Carolina. It's a little bit lower the further north you go. That's the NATO cast outlook. This is the SPC outlook. So again, the highest risk being in like far southern South Carolina, and you're like, the Beaufort area. Still definitely a low to medium risk for tornadoes, even up into northern South Carolina. So if you're back up near like Myrtle Beach, for example, potential for maybe a couple or a few tornadoes. But across this entire region, the same trend is going to go here. We're going to be talking about several tornadoes more than likely, and we could even see a tornado that's strong, especially back over in this area here near that enhanced risk. So, but I would expect at least a couple or a few tornadoes. Definitely have a tornado action plan ready to go. Thank you, Cascade, for the super chat. Why does it always seem like hurricanes miss Tampa Bay ever so slightly? They're always making landfall slightly north or south. That's a great question. It's kind of crazy to think, but like every major hurricane that we've seen make landfall recently in Florida, it feels like always goes up into the Big Bend or goes closer to like Panama City. It's interesting. I'm going to pull up a map to show you the tracks over the years, but Tampa's gotten really lucky. I'm gonna pull up the map here. Okay, I got a map pulled up. It has a lot of lines. So this is what it looks like historically for hurricanes making landfall in Florida, or storms in general. You'll notice you can't see Florida. So let me. I need to change the settings on here. Category, we'll do. That looks a lot cleaner now. Category 3. We'll do category 3, 4, and 5. And we'll do 1990 to like 2024, I guess. So we don't have all these years in here. So this is the historical landfall over the last 35 years. So you have Hurricane Idalia in 2023. Most of you remember that. That was recently. You had Hurricane Ian, Hurricane Charlie, basically the same place. Literally nothing, though, between Cedar Key back through Tampa, which is kind of crazy. And even south of Tampa. We've had no historical landfalls in the last, like, 30 years. Near Tampa. I mean, Tampa is due for a hurricane at this point. Like, I mean, like, it's due for a hurricane to make landfall there. It's just a matter of when, I think. It's just, it's bound to happen. Like, a major hurricane is what I'm talking about, not just, like, a normal hurricane. Let's do 1950, or not 1950, let's do like 1960 to 1990. We haven't had a major hurricane make landfall near Tampa in at least 60 years. Do 1700. I don't think we had, I don't know if we really have data that far back. 1700 would be kind of crazy. 1940 to 1960, we had a couple near Tampa, but still nothing that really has gone directly through the bay. It's very interesting, honestly. But I mean, I'm getting it's bound to happen at some point. It's just a matter of when. Will it happen in 5 years, 1 year, 10 years, 100 years? Who knows? Interesting though. Basically, every hurricane model on this latest run has this hurricane at a Cat 4 though. In Florida. So more than likely going to make landfall as a high-end Cat 3 or a low-end Cat 4 upon landfall tomorrow evening. Yeah, it is a matter of time. Next National Hurricane Center update does come out very, very soon. We are talking within the next 10 minutes. We'll see if there's any changes to the intensity of what Hurricane Helene looks like right now. As a friendly reminder, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. It is the red button down below. Make sure to subscribe. Click the bell icon down below so you're notified. We are going to continue to have live updates, and we'll have live landfall coverage tomorrow. We'll also have another video at some point today, probably a couple videos, so make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. And we're currently 900 subscribers from 380,000. Crazy stuff. How do we get Max to fly out on a Hurricane Hunter plane? I'm not gonna lie, I mean, I don't know if I think I could, because I know somebody that does fly into them. I'm just not sure if I would. Like, I don't know if I really want to go flying on a Hurricane Hunter aircraft. Hey, Bolden for the super chat. 1921 was the last hurricane to hit Tampa. Yeah, it's been a long time. Thank you, Lisa, for becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities. Thank you to anybody that's super chatted or become a member. Do appreciate the support. And also thank you for anybody that's Venmo'd. Generosity does mean a lot. Again, we're going to continue to do upgrades to the studio and all that as we go into the spring and summer. Hopefully a lot more upgrades in the summer of next year once I'm done with college and all that. Alright, the latest National Hurricane Center update is out. And also, it looks like Hurricane Helene's eye wall has closed off, or starting to, as it moves into the southern Gulf of Mexico. So if the eye is fully closed, rapid intensification is definitely going to start. We do have our new National Hurricane Center update. Once we have all those details, we'll let you know. The latest update right now is that this is still a hurricane. It is a Cat 1 hurricane. Maximum sustained winds at 80 miles per hour. The minimum central pressure is currently sitting at 980 millibars in the southern Gulf of Mexico. So no major changes to either one of those. Let me put on the little thingy bobber here. I think the pressure is the only thing that changed here. Yeah, pressure is basically right around where it's at right now. It's about 980, so pretty much in the same ballpark at where it just was at. See what they're saying on here. All right, so this is the latest. Hurricane Helene is moving towards the north-northwest near 10 miles per hour. A turn to the north and north-northeast with an increase in forward speed is expected later today through Thursday, bringing the center of Helene across the eastern Gulf of Mexico and into the Florida Big Bend coast by Thursday evening. After landfall, Hurricane Helene is expected to slow down and turn to the northwest over the southeastern United States Friday into Saturday. That'll cause some significant flooding, especially for Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. And still, as of right now, they are seeing 80 mile per hour maximum sustained winds from the Hurricane Hunters. Strengthening is in the forecast, and Helene is expected to be a major hurricane when it reaches the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. Weakening is expected after landfall, but there will still be damaging winds that will penetrate inland and, again, flooding, rainfall, and all those sorts of threats. But no major intensification. They are saying that the intensification thus far has just been steady. So that is currently what we're looking at in terms of that. Other than that, I don't think there's any other major updates. Just trying to double check here. I think those are the main updates from the National Hurricane Center. Thank you, Tactical, for the super chat. Thank you also, Z, for the super chat. I'll probably still stream. I'm not sure, though, right now what the plan is, but that's probably the plan. Thank you, Nicholas, for the super chat. Currently Kansas City is in a drought, like, or is in a drought like any chance of the remaining bits of Helene. Okay, so basically, Helene is probably gonna like be near Kansas City, but like I don't know if you're really gonna get much rain out of it. It would probably be pretty minimal for rainfall there. And this is like the current forecast from the Weather Prediction Center. Like the rain, like the outer bands essentially on Saturday might reach Kansas City, but it'll be very minimal. It'll be like very light rain. And then after Helene, we don't have any rain forecasted throughout much of next week for any of the Great Plains. So, yeah, unfortunately, not really any good news there. Thank you, John, for becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities. All right, let's see the camera. All right, guys. Hate to break it to you, but I don't know if we're going to see the bench. I do not see the bench. This is Keaton Beach. I'm pretty sure this is where we had the camera last time, or at least in this area. This is a different place, though. I don't remember where the bench was. For those that were here for Hurricane Debbie landfall, was the bench camera in Keaton Beach? Or was it Cedar Key? Or something like that? Was it somewhere else? Or maybe it was actually Horseshoe Beach. I don't remember, though. I keep seeing people say Cedar Key, Horseshoe Beach, and Keaton Beach. It was Horseshoe. Okay, so this is Horseshoe Beach. I don't know where the bench was. It may have been in the shot, and maybe they took it away or something, or it's somewhere behind the camera. Okay, guys, you know what we're going to do? We're going to draw a little bench right here. I'm not a good drawer, but there you go. Little bench right there. Look at that. The bench has returned. Imagine. Again, you can see these cameras in the Radar Omega app with the top link in the description below if you become a subscriber inside of the app. If you're already a subscriber, you get access to all these Radar Omega Meso vort projects here, or Project Meso vorts, which are the live cameras that are going to be able to see all the storm surge and the wind effects right along the coastline. For those that are wondering, we have released our, re-released the bench shirt, even if we don't have a bench tomorrow. We probably will have some view of a bench tomorrow. The bench shirt is back on shopmaxvelocity.net. The link's in the chat and also in the description. It is back better than ever. Fantastic. Only back for today and tomorrow, though. What's the bench mean? You'd only know if you were here for the Hurricane Debbie landfall. Because Hurricane Debbie, we end up having like crazy storm surge, and the only thing that was basically left here was a bench that we could see, and it like literally stayed there. It was crazy. But yeah. It's more, if you were here for Hurricane Debbie landfall, that's the only reason why you would know. There's like 5,000 people or 6,000 people here for most of it, so. Hopefully we get a bench cam. Maybe we get a different bench this time. We'll see. I think we're gonna have more cameras than just those 3. We'll probably have like 5 or 6, so. Should have all that coming in here pretty soon. Did the track shift? The only shift that we've seen is a little bit further west. So originally it was more towards like Cedar Key. Now it's back over near Apalachicola. The new 18Z computer model set will be coming out here soon. So we'll see if it shifts again. But for right now, it's pretty much in the same area. Yeah, I think Vince is putting up like 5. So I think we'll have 5 different cameras, maybe 6. I don't remember how many we had with Francine. I think it was 5. What's the best state to live in to avoid these storms? Serious question. North Dakota is a good place. Montana. Maybe Utah. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff on YouTube in the past. Like, I've seen some people put Category 5 hurricanes up here in, like, North Dakota and stuff before. Obviously, that doesn't happen. But, like, I mean, if you watch one of those YouTubers that clickbaits the crap out of stuff, I mean, you know, maybe you're at threat in North Dakota for a Cat 5. But no, I mean, you know, if you're trying to live in the Southeast and try to avoid hurricanes, it's kind of hard to do that. I mean, I would say your best bet is probably like, I don't know. There isn't really any best bet down here. You're probably going to see a hurricane or tropical storm impacts at some point in like 30 or 40 years if you live in any of these states. So it's hard to avoid in the southeast. Maine? You can't even really avoid hurricanes in Maine. I mean, Maine is at a high enough a latitude where the waters aren't warm enough to really support a hurricane. But we have occasionally seen tropical storms and even sometimes hurricanes go up in New England. So even Maine is not that safe. I would say North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, the places to go. That's what I would say. What's the tornado risk for Nashville, Tennessee? It's basically 0. We're not expecting much of a tornado threat right now in Tennessee. No problem, Kim. Alaska? I mean, Alaska too, for sure. But Alaska sometimes gets some crazy bomb cyclones, which can produce, not, I wouldn't say like the same impacts, but they sometimes produce at least like tropical storm type winds. Hawaii still sees their fair share of tropical systems. They're usually not that intense, but they still usually see those to some extent. As a friendly reminder, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. It's free to do. And we're going to continue to keep you posted with Hurricane Helene as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico towards Florida. And again, we'll have another live update tonight, more than likely. I'm not really sure when. We're probably going to have a live update. We'll at least have a video, though, at the bare minimum. If we don't have a live update tonight, it's more because I'm making graphics, because I still don't have graphics made fully for Hurricane Landfall. So, you know, if I'm not live tonight, that's why. But I'll probably have at least an hour or two to go live tonight. I gotta work on graphics and stuff for tomorrow's stream. Am I tripping or is 918 low? That is low. Yeah, this is... The HWRF model has this as like a high-end cat, like, you know, high-end cat 4. Like, this is pretty high. It's just one model. The HAFS A and B model runs have it down near 921. The HFS B has it near 930. So 925, 930. Like, I would say about 925 right now is like the median for the hurricane models, or the mean. Which 925 would be in the range of a cat, the high-end cat 4, low-end cat 5. But again, pressure is not what determines hurricane intensity. What determines it would be the wind. So we can have a pressure of 930 and have a wind of, you know, 130 or something. It's definitely possible. The pressure doesn't necessarily determine hurricane intensity, it's the wind. Thank you, MK, for the $10 super chat. For Thursday, what do you expect in Claxton, Georgia, which is 60 miles west of Savannah? Mostly wind for a threat. So, again, the wind is going to be the main concern anywhere in southeast Georgia. That's what it looks like for wind gusts. And notice the peak of wind gusts will be around 70 miles per hour or so in eastern Georgia. But I would have to go and say that the other concern that we need to keep in mind is also the rainfall potential. I don't think flooding is going to be a big concern there. But there could be a few inches of rain, maybe some localized flooding. And then the other thing to keep in mind will be the potential for a couple of tornadoes. So those are the main concerns. Thank you, Justa, for the super chat as well. Thank you, Jake, for the super chat. Keaton Beach was the bench camera. Horseshoe Beach had a bench, wasn't the bench. Thank you, Jake. All right, thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it. Thank you, Kim, for the super chat. When is the bench merch coming out? It should be on the website, is it not? It's the Drunk Hurricane t-shirt. That's the technical bench merch that we have. It's back to the Drunk Hurricane t-shirt. It's like literally the first thing on the website. That's the only technical bench merch that we have. I mean, we could do like a literal bench, but I don't think people want to buy a shirt that literally just has a bench on it. Go back down to Florida real quick. This is the latest RRFS model run. That's making landfall just south of Tallahassee. Let me go back to the 60. The RRFS model on the 12Z run had it shifting a little bit further west by like 10 to 20 miles. This isn't a hurricane model for reference, but I think it has a good grasp on wind gusts for Florida. Just the bench. Drunk hurricane? I mean, if you want to call a rapidly intensifying hurricane a drunk hurricane, there you go. That's what this is. Thank you, 5 for the 4.99. That's not even a thing. So it's pretty close to impossible to have a hurricane with 300 plus mile per hour winds. It's pretty much impossible. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the chat. I will be answering those for a little bit here. And if you have any like photos, videos, anything you want to send to me, you can at me on Twitter at MaxVelocityWX. Make sure to follow us, by the way, on Twitter and as well as on Facebook at MaxVelocityWX. The links to those are in the description. We are going to continue to post updates on those platforms, and again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Wow, the storm surge forecast has increased by a lot. I did not even see this. Our storm surge forecast has gone up on the latest update. We are now up to the potential for 18 feet of storm surge in Florida. That is as high as Ian was. That is literally... Ian was 12 to 18 feet upon was the forecast. That is a notable increase. I mean, again, if you are anywhere near the coastline in this Big Bend area, you need to make sure that you are nowhere near here. It is going to be very dangerous. I didn't realize it got increased, but yeah, 12 to 18 feet. Even between 8 to 12 feet near the Anclot River, just north of Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is still 5 to 8 feet, which is still significant. Apalachicola and Carabel are at 8 to 12 feet. Man, oh man. That's crazy. I think they just updated this too. Yeah, Ian had 12 to 18 feet of storm surge. I mean, if you remember Ian, that literally flooded like all of Cape Coral. It was horrible. We're basically going to be talking about probably the same thing here in the Big Bend. So, yeah, that's not good. And the graphic for you to understand what storm surge is. I mean, this is up to 9 feet of storm surge. We're talking about double that in the Big Bend of Florida. That's literally crazy. I know, at least there was some talk about it. I don't know if it'll, I don't think it'll actually happen, but I know Connor was thinking about getting like an Airbnb near the coast. I wouldn't even. Like 18 feet of storm surge, no way. Literally no way I'm going there to an Airbnb near the coastline. Especially with up to 18 feet of peak storm surge. That's just crazy. I mean, for the record, Florida is not a very high elevated state. Now, that water is not going to go, like, all the way over to Jacksonville, for example. But, like, you know, that type of water is just, you know, 18 feet is going to go relatively far inland, at least in this part of Florida. Like, this is how far inland it could literally go. Could even go a little bit further north, too. With up to 18 feet of storm surge. Let me see if the storm surge map has been updated. Not sure if this is updated to the most recent forecast, but I mean, this is almost going to reach Tallahassee. It's going to go up some of those rivers. Yeah, Florida is a very flat state. There's no doubt about that. Crazy. It's crazy stuff. I did not mean to download that. They have storm surge warnings in effect for basically the entire west coast of Florida. But the peak storm surge, really crazy. Up to 18 feet of storm surge now forecasted. For reference, it was a range of 10 to 15 feet before. A 3-foot increase is pretty significant. You know, that's a lot. Crazy stuff. So this is the latest on Hurricane Helene. Currently, there is a little bit of dry air that is filtered into Helene in the short term, but it does appear to be closing off an eye wall. So when that eye wall fully closes, we are going to start to see rapid intensification. Again, as of right now, you can actually almost kind of see the dry air kind of almost filtering into this, but that eye wall is expected to close off here very soon, which means that we are expecting this to relatively quickly intensify as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico here. But there is a little bit of dry air here, so just a little bit. It's not going to be enough to really weaken this long term. It's just enough to keep it a little bit, you know, a little bit more steady in terms of intensification for right now. Would you rule out a Cat 5 at landfall? I would say Cat 5 at landfall is fairly unlikely, but it's still not impossible. I'm not forecasting a Cat 5 because I just think it's too aggressive for where we're at right now, but I do think a Cat 4 is a very high likelihood right now. I know the current forecast is a high-end Cat 3. I think Cat 4 is very well in play, though. For landfall. What are the ocean temperatures? They're like 4 degrees above average. They're in like the 90s right now. They're still in like the low 90s. It's crazy. Weathering out Ian was terrifying. Missed me by 30 miles to the south. Yeah, Ian was scary. I mean, I went through Ian. A lot of you guys probably went through Ian for those that live in Florida. You know, Ian was a massive, massive storm. It was unbelievable. It had so many impacts too. It wasn't just it being a major hurricane. It was literally like a massive rainfall producer. It produced like 20 to 25 inches of rain across central Florida. It produced, you know, catastrophic damage to areas near Cape Coral. Huge storm surge. I mean, it was everything. It was a huge storm. Now, this hurricane is another big one. It's a huge hurricane as well here. This is, again, over 2 times larger than what a Dahlia was for the Winfield. So, this is going to be a pretty big storm for Florida, unfortunately. Will Disney close? I don't think Disney will close, but I could be wrong. If they close for a Dahlia, then they will definitely close for this. If they did close for a Dahlia, but we're on the fence, they might close for this. So that's my kind of current thinking right now. Hey, David, for the super chat. Sanford's airport closed tomorrow? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. If they close for wind gusts over 50 miles per hour, then more than likely. If they do close, it'll probably be tomorrow afternoon and evening, would be my guess. Because those wind gusts, they'll be around 40, 45 miles per hour in the early to mid-afternoon. They'll peak around 50 to 55 during, like, the around sunset, just after sunset. Thank you, Sween, for the super chat. I mean, you can go whenever. Like, you can go to, you know, St. Lucie County whenever you want, but where's Live Oak? Let me find where Live Oak is first. I mean, you can basically go anytime tonight. Tomorrow is more risky. If you're going tomorrow, like, you would have to leave early in the day. But I would probably leave tonight. I don't know why you would leave tomorrow. You'll already start to feel the wind tomorrow for sure. And then if you leave later in the day, you're going to be basically running into the outer bands. Disney announced that they'll be closing for Helene. Did they actually? I don't see anything. They did temporarily close Typhoon Lagoon tomorrow for Helene, which is not surprising. Apparently, Universal Volcano Bay will also be closed tomorrow. And then they've also canceled the Halloween party for tomorrow night at Magic Kingdom. So that's the latest from Disney. They haven't officially closed though yet. And if they're closing if they're not going to have the Halloween party, they might end up just canceling the. They might end up closing the park early tomorrow or something like that. But who knows? I would say it's a relatively low chance though that they close all 4 parks because like the wind. It depends on honestly on what happened with Adalia because I don't think they closed for Adalia. If they didn't close for Adalia, then I don't think they'll close for this. If they did close for Adalia, they're definitely closing for this because it's like the same area and higher winds in nature. So apparently this is the latest out of Tampa. Hotels and apartments just southwest of Tampa Airport are now being evacuated, according to Jeff Piotrowski. Rockport Area Zone A hotel staff started call on phone going room to room and told everybody they have to leave the hotel immediately by 3 p.m. So that's the latest out of Tampa. Imagine going to Disney during a hurricane. Honestly, I think it'd be kind of cool. Not gonna lie. If the hurricane, if it's like tropical storm type impacts, I think it'd be cool. There won't be very many people there. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if they'll be closed tomorrow, but I would lead towards, like, I would say it's kind of 50-50 right now. Thank you, Eric, for the super chat. I live in a camper in Macon. Am I okay? You're at least talking about tropical storm force winds. I would play it safe, and again, you know, get to somewhere that's more sturdy when the impacts are being felt. If you have a friend that maybe has a home or something, definitely recommend maybe staying there for the night, because like the winds in Macon are going to be upwards of, you know, potentially 70 to 80 miles per hour overnight Thursday night and a Friday morning. So I wouldn't risk it. Would not risk it in a mobile home. Thank you, Athens, for the super chat. Appreciate the generosity. Macon, thank you. Or Macon. Macon? Macon? Imagine playing football or sports during a hurricane. I told Connor we should go golfing. We should go golfing out in this hurricane. Imagine if we had a golf match during the hurricane. You know how crazy that'd be? That'd be so lit. Thank you, Matt, for the super chat. What do you think the realistic storm surge along the coast at or Newport Richie will be? Find where that is. Newport Richie, currently I would say probably peak storm surge around like 6 to 7 feet or so. I could see there being slightly higher than that though. I think the forecast here was upwards of 12 feet now. The SPC outlook right now around 8 to 12 feet in that area for a peak storm surge. So I think realistically that's a pretty good range, but I mean, yeah. It might be on the lower side of that though, back over there. But you should always be preparing for worst case scenario with this hurricane. Again, this has the potential to be a Cat 4. Wouldn't even rule out a Cat 5 near landfall, but Cat 4, pretty certain that it's going to be a Cat 4 on landfall. Unless something really changes over the next, like, 24 hours. Thank you, Philly, for the super chat. How's Largo, Florida? Let me look where Largo is. Largo, mostly going to be storm surge threat. There will be potential for some hurricane force wind gusts as well. But more of a storm surge threat. And an isolated tornado risk will also exist there. I gotta plug in my wireless mouse. It's almost out of battery. Huh. I don't know where my wireless mouse plug is. Are we cooked? Are we cooked without a mouse? My wireless mouse, I don't know where my cord went. Well, that's exciting. I don't know where my cord is. I have another mouse, but I don't want to use it. I want to use this wireless mouse. Maybe this will be enough? This might actually just work. Let me try. Imagine if I didn't have a mouse. I wouldn't even be able to end the stream or anything if I didn't have a mouse. Alright, I got it charging. We're good. Alright, I got a plug for it. We're chilling. The wireless mouse has to be charged, so... Bro is trapped streaming for the rest of eternity. That'd be kind of crazy. Not gonna lie. How's it going, Ryan? Savannah's gonna be mostly wind. It's the main concern. Maybe a couple of tornadoes in the area. Currently looking at the potential, though, for some hurricane-force wind gusts, maybe just to your west, but Savannah probably gonna be in the tropical storm range, and it'll be mostly overnight tomorrow night. So, unfortunately, a lot of the impacts that are gonna be happening inland are gonna be overnight. So, makes it a little bit worse. Tornadoes are going to be more nocturnal tomorrow, too. Unfortunately, the timing of landfall is not great. It'd be better if this was making landfall earlier in the day, because I think a lot of people would be more ready for it. What am I seeing for St. Augustine tomorrow? St. Augustine's going to be mostly, again, just wind. Anywhere up and down the east coast of Florida, mostly going to be tropical storm force wind gusts. The only exception with, like, St. Augustine will be the potential for some storm surge. So the town might get flooded a little bit, but it's only going to be around 1 to 3 feet of storm surge. It's not a lot, but it's enough usually to flood that town or city. Offshore winds and near the beach will probably be more closer to 70 to 75 miles per hour. So the winds will be a little bit worse there. There's not really much blocking that wind from being strong, so it'll be more intense over there. Thank you, Dave, for the $10 super chat. How's Salem, Alabama? Salem, Alabama. Right on the cusp of the tropical storm warnings. More than anything, some rain. Pretty normal in my opinion. Not really anything like flooding-wise I'd expect. Tropical storm force wind gusts. This is the peak wind that we're looking at in southeast Alabama. So 40 to 55 miles per hour. Nothing crazy. If this does, for whatever reason, go a bit further west and makes landfall in Panama City, these numbers will be up a lot more. But for the time being, the current forecast around 40 to 55 mile per hour wind gusts. Thank you, Jerry, for the super chat. Valdesta in Georgia is going to be probably hit one of the hardest areas. It's going to be one of the hardest hit areas in Georgia. That's where we're expecting at least category like 2 type winds as they move inland. Right now, this model showing wind gusts around 85, 90 miles per hour, right around Valdesta. So Valdesta is going to be one of the hardest hit places in southern Georgia. And then flooding rainfall also a possibility. So just be prepared for all those threats. As a reminder, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Again, we're going to continue to have updates throughout the day today and as well as tomorrow when landfall happens. We're going to be live on the channel with almost over half a dozen storm chasers, almost a dozen live cameras. So we're going to have lots of different stuff that we're going to be able to use tomorrow for this landfall coverage. So make sure that you are subscribed down below. And click the bell icon as well so you're notified when we do go live tomorrow. And as well as probably having another live update tonight. Lots of stuff happening over the next 24 hours. Thank you, High Ground, for the super chat. How long would hurricane force conditions be in Taylor County, Florida? They'll probably start around, like, if you're talking about winds, they'll probably start around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Depending on where you are, closer to the coast, it'll be earlier. And then it'll last all the way, essentially, into the early overnight hours. It'll start to wind down by, like, 4 a.m. Friday. So it'll last for approximately 12 hours. Thank you, please, for the super chat. Can you explain the likelihood of this getting to a Cat 4 or Cat 5? I would say right now, Cat 3 on landfall is like a 30% chance. I'd say like a 50% chance, maybe even a 55% chance it's a Cat 4, and then somewhere around a 15% chance of a Cat 5. My current thinking. Yeah, this is one of the biggest hurricanes that we're going to be dealing with, you know, ever. This is like one of the biggest hurricanes that we've ever had. It's going to be, at least once it makes landfall and whatnot. Again, this is in the 90th percentile of size of hurricanes. So essentially what that means is it's like 90%. It's basically, compared to other hurricanes, it's 90. It's like one of the largest hurricanes. It's like the top 10%. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty crazy. Yeah, pretty nuts. Pretty nuts. Yeah, the eye wall is starting to form really fast. There's a radar imagery. I don't know where it is, but the eye wall is forming really fast. You can almost see it on satellite too. A little bit of dry air still impeding its development, but once that eye wall's closed off, this thing is going to go very quickly into a... It's going to basically press the gas pedal in terms of intensity over the next 24 hours. B. Smith, when was that? Are you talking about the Northeast Tennessee tornado? Is that what we're talking about from yesterday? Hey, Jacob for the super chat. Bainbridge, Georgia. Bainbridge is going to get hit pretty hard too. I mean, you're pretty much in the ballpark of seeing Cat 2, maybe even up to Cat 3 type winds, even moving inland as we go into tomorrow night. So make sure you're prepared for power outages. Some localized flooding will be possible. Northeast Tennessee, okay. That's crazy. That tornado yesterday was in the F2. Sheesh. It looked like I mean, the signature on radar was pretty impressive. So, not super shocked. All right, we got 3 different Project Meso vorts up on the Radar Omega app. Again, you can download this app at the top link in the description below on iOS and Android. Again, we got several camera views. Got one over in Jenna as well. Jenna's actually raining right now. If you're a subscriber inside the app, you can access these. Any subscriber at all. They'll be up there. They'll obviously be in play tomorrow, as long as they don't get hit by storm surge or power goes out or whatever might be the case. But they'll be up pretty much all day tomorrow for landfall. Hey, Jerry for the super chat. I'm gonna be honest, I don't understand what that means, but let me check in on Fort Walton, wherever that is. Winds aren't gonna be too bad there. I mean, you'll have some like 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts, but it won't be too far beyond that. Unless, again, this makes landfall closer to Panama City. If it makes landfall closer to Panama City, then the winds will potentially be more like 50 to 60 miles per hour in that area, but that'd be like worst case scenario. This goes Cat 4. Can the Orlando area get a hurricane warning? Probably not. I doubt Orlando's under a hurricane warning. I mean, we'd have to see a track shift for that to happen. Like, it would have to make landfall way over here, like near Cedar Key. And we are not expecting that, so. Hey, Tricky for the super chat. It's the super chat. Team Bench Unite. The bench sure is back on shotmaxvelocity.net. Yippee. Hey, please for the super chat. How's it going, Elijah? How safe am I? I'm fine. Yeah, I have no concern about my safety in Florida. It's more about, will we lose power? As there is a possibility that I lose power at some point tomorrow. And if that happens, we might not be live for the actual landfall. I'm hoping that we have no issues, but I honestly think I'll be fine when it comes to power. It just, you know, it's a chance that we could lose power. So, we'll see. I was considering going elsewhere to go stream, but I'm not going to. There's just no way I'm going to go somewhere else to stream, because I'd rather be in the studio. We have all of our equipment here. It's much easier to stream here. If we lose power, I mean, it is what it is. But hopefully we don't. Thank you, Christian, for the super chat. Even if I had a generator, I mean, you could lose internet too. Like, I mean, both things could basically go out, so. The only thing that would technically work with a hurricane would be a Starlink, and basically having a Starlink and then also having a generator. That would be basically the only way you get around losing power, being able to be live for it. I am planning. I'm very heavily considering getting a Starlink satellite as a backup internet source as we go into next year. So. I'm heavily considering that. And not for that reason, but for the reason of potential losing internet, you know. Internet outages happen at the worst times usually, so. If my power goes out early Thursday, I will consider driving over there and chasing with Connor and Freddy. But the odds of that are so slim. I mean, I would have to lose power literally when I wake up for that to happen. That's the only way I go chasing instead of going live for this. So I would say the odds of that extremely low. I'd be 100% down to do it, but it would have to literally be, you know, when I wake up, I lose power. But if I have power tomorrow morning, I'm planning on being live tomorrow. So I don't have any plans to chase, but you know, last second, there's a possibility that I go over there. Thank you, Derek, for the super chat. What are the tornado chances in Knoxville, Tennessee? Again, Tennessee's not really looking at much of a tornado risk. Tornado risk, again, day over day. I'll show you the probabilities again. But day over day, tornado risk today, very low. Tomorrow, not even close to Tennessee. And then Friday is also not close to Tennessee. Thank you, Gavin, for the super chat. Hurricane force wind gusts are possible near the coastline on the west coast, even if you are like not in a hurricane warning, because there's nothing really stopping the wind. You know, like inland, like Orlando, for example, you'll see, like, if you look at the east coast of Florida, for example, you see this more. Orlando's at 50 miles per hour, well inland. There's trees and buildings and all that. But, like, offshore, you can see the wind here. That's all 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts here. Up and down near Jacksonville and Daytona Beach. So, you know, that type of wind, like the wind offshore that comes inland, it's much stronger right at the coastline, and it starts to go down a little bit more inland. Is my wedding safe in Connecticut? Yeah, you should be all right. I think your wedding will be all right up there in Connecticut. Friendly reminder, if you're new to the channel, hit the red button down below and subscribe. We're less than 500 subscribers now from 380,000. Here's the current number right now. If everybody subscribes in here that's not already subscribed, we might be able to hit it. Yeah, we're going to continue to have live coverage later today as well at some point, probably tonight, and then we'll also have a video out in a few hours. So make sure you click the bell icon also down below so you're notified with the latest updates. Thank you, Trish, for the $25 super chat for the Starlink next year. I appreciate that. Starlinks are pretty expensive. The one I'm going to probably get is like, I think it's $300 right now, but apparently it's going to go back up to $600. But that's like the initial fee, and then I think it's like $120 a month. So it's expensive, but it would be useful if we do end up losing power, like even, or losing internet for even like a couple hours on stream. I'd much rather be able to continue to do live coverage than have to deal with the, you know, the annoying effect of not being live. I hate not being live for stuff, especially when it's internet or something like that. The next National Hurricane Center update is at 5. Forgot to change that. There we go. Storm surge in Destin. I'm not expecting really much storm surge in Destin. It would be pretty minimal up in Destin, Florida. Because you're gonna have that onshore, or the onshore wind. So basically the wind coming from land into the water when it makes landfall. So it'd be more like this over there. That mostly pushes water out to sea instead of actually pushing it inland. Is the time correct on stream? 2:38? Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it's in Eastern time. It's Eastern time zone. If you do look at the bottom left of your screen, my computer is currently set to Central time. I gotta fix that. But if you look at the bottom left, it says 1:32. That is in Central time. My Radar Omega app is currently in Central time. I will fix that, hopefully, for the next stream, because I keep forgetting to do that. My computer is always set on Central, just for the sake of, you know, being consistent, I guess. I don't know why I'm on Central time. I don't even live in Central time. I don't know. I'm used to it. It's weird. Weirdo. Thanks. Appreciate it. Appreciate being called a weirdo, just because my time zone is different from everybody else's. I understand. It's alright. It's alright. Yes, the eye is about to close off. It will be closing off this afternoon. It's expected to close off relatively soon, and that's going to begin the rapid intensification that we're expecting. So, that is to be expected. Okay. Back of Max's head looks like a debris ball. Bro, what? We are traveling to Puerto Rico, one stop into Miami in the morning. I think you'll be alright. I think you'll be okay. Yeah, you shouldn't have too many big problems there, in my opinion. I think a Cat 4 is possible too. Again, Cat 4 is what I'm thinking, honestly. Like, that's my forecast today. Yesterday was a high-end Cat 3, low-end Cat 4. I'm thinking low to middle ground Cat 4 upon landfall. So, my forecast, it's been pretty consistent, I'd say, but it's slightly higher than before. So, yeah. No major changes, but that's the current thinking. The current forecast, again, from the National Hurricane Center is a high-end Cat 3. So, the difference between 5-10 miles per hour is not a major difference, but it is obviously going to be a notable one near the coastline. So, yep. By the way, I highly recommend, if you have any questions, go back to the very beginning of the stream. The first 25 to 30 minutes of today's stream was a very detailed breakdown on what to expect, basically across all of Florida and the Southeast. So make sure to check that out. It's a very detailed breakdown, very organized. It goes by threats and, you know, landfall area, all that sort of stuff. We are going to have another video in about 2.5 hours or so. So we'll have another video update for you at about 5 o'clock Eastern time or so. So make sure you are subscribed again to the channel. Click the bell icon so you're notified when that video does come out. If we get like 350 more of you guys to subscribe, we're going to hit 380,000. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. Again, we'll keep posted with the latest on upcoming Hurricane Helene as it approaches the coast of Florida. And we are anticipating to be live for quite a bit tomorrow. We're expecting to be live for quite a bit tomorrow. So we'll be live for several hours tomorrow with landfall coverage, and again, several storm chasers. We'll have over half a dozen storm chasers out there in the field seeing the greatest impacts, and we'll also have live cameras. Definitely subscribe if you've not already. We are also going to have some live cameras from Cape Weather, which I don't have the link to them in the description right now, but I do want to pull it up real quick. We're going to have a few different live cameras as well. We got some cameras near Pine Island. This is a live shot here in Pine Island right now. on the Cape Weather camera. This is live. Not many people out there right now, but we're gonna have some of these live cameras as well. So, what time am I going live tomorrow? Whenever the impacts ramp up, that's when I'm gonna go live. I'm not going live for rain. Either I'll be going live for the impacts when they really start to ramp up, or I'll be going live for a live update in the morning and then actual coverage in the afternoon. So one or the other. I'm not going live though at like 10 a.m. all the way until 10 p.m. for just some rain to begin with, and then it actually ramps up. I'm gonna go live when things actually start ramping up, because we've already done a lot of update streams. I think we've done a lot of preparation stuff. I don't think it's needed that we have to go live at like 12 o'clock tomorrow until like 5 o'clock for preparation and then do Landfall. Like, I would rather it just be, you know, Landfall stream. I'd rather the impacts be streamed rather than the, you know, I'd just rather be live for the impacts, if you know what I mean. So, you know, the impacts are what I'm more, and I think a lot more people are interested in the actual impacts that are happening in real time, because we've already done a bunch of these preparation streams at this point, so I think it makes more sense to do it that way. Shout out, by the way, to Kimberly for picking up a Drunk Hurricane t-shirt on shopmaxvelocity.net. If you want to pick one up, it is again at shopmaxvelocity.net, the link in the description. It will be out for a limited time. Pretty much only today and tomorrow. And maybe Friday, and then it's gone after that.
A new tornado warning has been issued.
We have a tornado warning in Georgia. It's back over near Clarksville. Rotation's actually relatively strong in the mid-levels, so we might have a tornado. That's going to be going towards Clarksville and Turnerville. So if you are in this warning, seek shelter immediately, away from windows, lowest floor possible, and in an interior room of your home or building. A brand new tornado warning here near Clarksville. It's also a live camera, but it's a little bit out of the warning. It's currently moving northeast, going towards Turnerville. If you're in Turnerville, seek shelter. This is going to be an ongoing threat for the next several hours, so like, don't be caught off guard by the potential here for, you know, an isolated tornado or two. In Georgia, primarily. But that's the beginning of probably several tornado warnings throughout the afternoon and evening today. Don't really have anything near Florida yet for tornado potential, I would say. Maybe like a low chance in like southwest Florida this afternoon. Maybe some of these storms near Arcadia get going. But I would say it's a relatively low chance overall. Thank you, Grybo, for the super chat. Jacksonville should be mostly wind, a little bit of rain, isolated tornado threat. Thank you, Kiss, for the super chat. I do not say, because I don't need people knowing. So that's why. I'm not going to say where I am. It's a reason why I avoid the question. We got pretty strong rotation right now, right over the Pardue Mill and Clarksville near College Park. So definitely on the stronger side of rotation right now, moving to the northeast. Again, if you are in this warning, definitely get to your safe place, away from windows and on the lowest floor possible as this continues to move northeast. He's in Disney. Yes, I'm streaming right now from Disney World. Absolutely. Imagine. That'd be crazy. The latest scan showing slightly broader rotation right now, moving towards Clarksville and Turnerville. That's on the most recent scan. So we'll stay alive as long as it still looks concerning. Slightly broader rotation. This includes 17,000 people, by the way. 17,000 people in this warning. Max lives in Culver's. Absolutely. I haven't been to Culver's in weeks. It's been a long time. Panama's still watching. Either going to get everything or nothing. Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much what's going to happen. Basically, everything or nothing. Unfortunately, it's kind of where we're at right now with Panama City. It's hard to tell, man. You know, west side, like the west side of the hurricane usually has this situation where you literally get everything or you literally get nothing. That's like literally always how it goes. It really just depends again on where, you know, it makes landfall. If it made landfall over here, Panama City's getting nothing basically. If it makes landfall in Panama City, you're getting everything. There's not really any in between. Now, on the flip side of things, if you're in, you know, if it makes landfall here or here, the storm surge is still going to be substantial in the Big Bend. It doesn't really make a difference because the east side of the hurricane is pulling all of that water and all that wind is coming from offshore. So, it's the biggest reason why. And this is a tornado warning that you're looking at on your screen, that pink polygon. That is for Clarksville and Turnerville in Georgia. Latest scan showing broader circulation again. It was stronger a couple scans ago, but it's starting to broaden out a little bit as it moves northeast. It's moving in the direction again of Turnerville in Georgia. Okay, if you're in this warning, continue to stay in your safe place. How many more hurricane predictions left for the season? Do you mean how many more hurricanes we're expecting? I mean, we could probably see another like 3 to 4 hurricanes this season. October is going to probably be a pretty active month. I think we're going to get one more landfalling hurricane in the United States before the season's done. That's my thinking. Could be Florida. Could be, you know, somewhere else. You never know. But I think we get one more landfalling hurricane in the United States. When do you start the live? I never got a notification. You might not be getting notifications because I had like 3 uploads already in the last 24 hours. But we started like 2.5 hours ago. And as a reminder, if you are new to the channel, again, hit the red button down below and subscribe. We're going to have another live update sometime this evening, as long as I get my graphics done. That are, you know, I'm going to have to make some graphics later for tomorrow's stream. But as long as those are done, we'll be, you know, live for an update tonight. Probably only like an hour or 2 long. Not nearly as long probably as these ones, but we'll have a video again in like 2 hours or so, 2.5 hours. So you can expect a video to be out here in the short term. And we're going to be live through probably this tornado warning, and then, all right, as long the rotation, if it keeps dying out, we're not going to be live for this, but we'll be live as long as this looks concerning. It's a live view on the radar Omega cyclone port just north of the tornado warning. A lot of fog, very humid up here in northeast Georgia. No problem, Jill. By the way, follow us on Twitter and Facebook at MaxVelocityWX. You can also join our Discord server, link in the description. Be posting updates there. But it does look like that eye is really starting to come together now. This is a view on satellite. That right there is the eye. It's starting to come out a little bit now. We're starting to see a little bit of an eye kind of develop now. We got an eye wall developing and everything, so this is only going to get worse from here, unfortunately. Go back to satellite imagery on radar Omega 2. We can go to the Meso scale 1. And there you go, look at that thing. This is the last 7 minutes. We're going to go last 50 frames instead. It's the last 50 minutes. It's going to take a second to load. Look at that thing. Look at that thing organizing. Let me take off the tropical tracker. That looks ominous. Okay. And we're back. Okay. We're back. Sorry. I don't know what happened. Internet decided to die for a second. I don't know why that always happens. It's happened so many times. It's so random. It happens at like really random times. But we're back. You must have Spectrum? I don't even know what I have. It's not Spectrum, I know that. Thank you, Christmas, for the super chat. Will wind shear impact the intensification? No, I mean, wind shear basically doesn't exist. It's so minimal right now. There's almost no wind shear. So, yeah, there's like nothing really stopping this from intensifying. The only thing that's really stopping it right now in the short term is dry air, but after that's done, we're off to the races with a major hurricane tomorrow. Frontier is so much better. I've heard a lot of mixed things about Frontier, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. I think Connor has Frontier. I don't know, though. I don't remember what he said. He has Frontier, though. I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. His internet goes out all the time. Have I decided where I'm filming during the hurricane? Right now, we're just gonna be in the studio. I'm not going away from the studio. If we lose power, I mean, it is what it is. I'd much rather be here than go somewhere else to stream. We have all of our stuff here. I mean, again, if this was last year when we only had a laptop and one monitor, I would 100% leave here. But like, dude, we have 7, 8 monitors now. We have, you know, lighting equipment. We got the flashing light when there's tornado warnings and stuff. Like, you know, our studio is just so much more than what it was before. It would be way harder basically to be able to, you know, to move everything to another place. And we also have our new computer. That's the other thing. So, but again, if I for whatever reason lose power very early tomorrow when I wake up or something, I will probably go chase with Freddy and Connor. But if not, I'll just be here and we'll go live. And if, you know, if we lose power during a live stream, it is what it is, I guess. We'll see what happens. I don't think I'll lose power though. I think we'll be fine, but it's on the back of my mind, if you know what I mean. One of those things you got to kind of think about sometimes. All right. Let me go back to this tornado warning real quick. Let's check it out. Rotation's coming together a little bit again. Got a little bit stronger rotation again near Turnerville and Clarksville in Georgia. And if you are in this warning, continue to stay in your safe place as this continues to move northeast. I think for the majority of the other storms, though, I don't think any of these other ones are really rotating. Mostly just gusty winds, so... Can you recap? If you want to recap, literally just watch the beginning of the stream. I talked about everything at the beginning, so I recommend you just go back to the beginning of the stream and just watch it. Either that or watch this morning's video, but, I mean, this morning's video is a little bit more dated at this point. If I did a recap, I would have to go back through every single forecast graphic, and that would take, like, 20 minutes. There's a lot of stuff to go through. So, you can kind of skip around, too, at the beginning. There's, like, you know... There's, you know, I made it pretty organized, so it's like the track, the threats, all that sort of stuff are pretty much in order. Latest scan shows a much stronger area of rotation now near Turnerville. So, definitely a possibility that we get a tornado as this moves towards Turnerville in Georgia. I did talk about the Fujiwara effect. I've talked about it in every video and also in today's stream. There's an explanation literally in every single stream or video over the last couple days, so... Yeah, we talked about it a lot. Has anyone ever told you sound like Buzz Lightyear? What? You do not sound like Buzz Lightyear. Man, it's capping. OMG, he does. I do not sound like Buzz Lightyear. Guys, we need to stop with the Buzz Lightyear comparisons. I do not sound like Buzz Lightyear whatsoever. No shot. I'm not saying that phrase. No. Guys, stop it. I do not sound like Buzz. I do not hear that. I don't know why everybody's saying it now in the chat. I do not. That's so cap. I'm not saying it. No. I'm not saying that phrase. I'm not saying Woody. Thank you, VW, for the super chat. Pretty good chance it's probably going to get at least delayed, if not canceled. The velocity show here. There's a pretty good chance that this storm's going to produce a tornado near Turnerville. Yeah, and that rotation's really strong right now. Pretty good chance we're going to get a tornado near Turnerville, Shirley Grove. Guys, I'm not saying that phrase. I'm not saying any phrases from that movie. No shot. I do not sound like Buzz Lightyear. Love how Buzz Lightyear just gave a super chat. Fantastic. Oh, man. Alright, we'll give this one more radar scan. I've got to get to class, so after this radar scan, I'm going to have to go. I may or may not be late. And I'll have a video back out at like 5 o'clock Eastern time. As a friendly reminder, if you are new to the channel, again, subscribe, click the bell icon as well so you're notified if and when we do go live later tonight. We'll probably be live tonight, but we'll see. Skip class? I wish I could skip class. Be fantastic. Thank you, Chef, for the super chat. Thank you, Cass, also for becoming a member, and welcome to the Velocities. Thank you, by the way. A huge shout out to anybody that's become a member or super chatted today. Appreciate the generosity. Thank you to anybody that's Venmo'd as well. And yeah, appreciate you guys. And thank you to anybody that's subscribed. We're pretty close to 380,000. Yeah, we're about to be at 380,000 subscribers. So thank you to anybody that's subscribed to the channel. We are going to raid Brandon Kopic after this. So we'll do a little quick raid. Because I don't have a stream scheduled for later.
A new tornado warning has been issued.
The tornado warning is still radar indicated. There's no new tornado warning. They just updated it. But it is still radar indicated. Thank you, Heather, for the super chat. Any chance the Fujiwara effect doesn't happen? Fujiwara effect is probably going to happen no matter what. I don't see it going east. Velocity should update here in a second. Just waiting for the radar to update. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Like 3 minutes behind on the latest radar scan. Do it the velocity show. Hey, Tom. I'll see you tomorrow. just check my phone to see if the velocity's just updated. Yeah, there's still pretty decent rotation here. I mean, again, it looks kind of contaminated in a way. It's not really... I would say there's definitely rotation here for sure. It's just hard to gauge how strong, because we're in a little bit of a radar hole. But 100% stay in your safe place if you're in this warning. Get to your tornado shelter, whatever it might be. And yeah, stay safe. I mean, again, tornado warnings, they'll be hit or miss today. We'll have a better shot for tornadoes for sure tomorrow. This is a very isolated threat today. So the good news is that most stuff is behaving itself in Georgia, aside from this stuff up here in northeastern Georgia. So, but aside from that, I have to get to class. I have no option. So I do appreciate you guys all tuning in. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel, like the stream, follow us on Twitter and Facebook at MaxVelocityWX. Also make sure to go check out our Discord server. The link is in the description, and we'll continue to post updates throughout the day today. We'll have a video in a couple hours, so click the bell so you're notified with that. We're gonna have another live stream more than likely sometime this evening. It might be later than what I've been doing. It might be like closer to like 9 or 10. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure yet. I have to get graphics done. So whenever I get the graphics done, we'll have a live stream. If I don't get them done for some reason, the next stream will be tomorrow. All right. So appreciate you guys all watching. Stay tuned for the raid. We're gonna raid Brandon Kopic. Put some like max raids in the chat or something. And thank you guys all again for watching. We'll see you guys all again in the next one. Hopefully I can help you guys out, and we'll be back later on today. Bye bye.